All right, well, I'm showing noon East Coast time, so I will kick it off. Welcome to the 6th Department of War Survivor Symposium, Navigating Survivor Benefits and Resources Together, hosted by the Department of War, Office of Casualty, Mortuary Affairs, and Military Funeral Honors. I'm Brian Belke, and I'm from the Office of Casualty, Mortuary Affairs, and Military Funeral Honors, and I will moderate the symposium today. But first, let me cover the Survivor Symposium event disclaimer. Next slide, please. The presence of links or information in this presentation during the Department of War Survivor Symposium does not constitute endorsement by the Department of War. The opinions expressed in this presentation on the following slides are solely those of the presenter. Next slide, please. As part of the War Department's commitment to survivors of active duty deaths, the Department of War is hosting the Survivor Symposium. The symposium will provide a platform for survivors and service providers to learn and gain information on a variety of important tools. But it's now my pleasure to introduce Ms. Lee Kelly, who's Principal Director of Military Community and Family Policy, and she will be providing opening remarks. And thank you for joining us, Ms. Kelly. The floor is yours.
Brian, thank you. Can you hear me okay, Brian?
Got you loud and clear.
All right. Welcome, everyone. As Brian said, welcome to our June Survivor Symposium. In addition to being Principal Director for Military Community and Family Policy, I'm also an enlisted Army veteran and social worker, and I'm really honored to have a chance to be here with you today. Today actually marks a really meaningful milestone for us. And so I asked one of my our teammates, Lisa Valentine, to give a little bit of background on the milestone that we have here today with our June symposium. Lisa?
Yes, ma'am. So thank you, everyone. We're so glad to have you here. This all started based on an outreach event that we were at, Brian and I were at. It was Snowball Express with the Gary Sinise Foundation. And one of our surviving spouses, who is also a SOS coordinator, she came along with a couple of surviving spouses that she takes care of with the milestone management and so forth. And they said, you know what, we would really love something where we can have more education and go into detail about different topics that affect us. And so we thought it would be a really great idea. And they also told us, they said, but you know what, we work. So we really like it to be like on a Friday or Saturday. Well, Saturday gets a little complicated because of overtime. And we said, well, we'll see what we can do. And so out of that evolved the Survivor Symposium. And so a big shout out to you all in Europe that brought this to our attention. And we look forward to continued ideas. Our topics don't just come from our office. We really want to know what you want to hear, what you need to know, what are the gaps, what are things that we can improve upon. And we really take that seriously from the very top of the Department of War. So thank you, ma'am. Passing it back to Ms. Kelly.
Thanks, Lisa. As Lisa said, in 2 years, we've hosted 6 symposiums, and Lisa hit the nail on the head. Each symposium's a little different, and it's really shaped by your participation. That engagement really matters. These events, they're not just information sharing, they're about bringing together service providers, subject matter experts, and our survivor community so that we can listen, learn, and continue improving in this space. And that's why your ongoing participation and insights are really essential to this work. Your voices guide the work that we do every day and also inform how we shape future events. You're going to hear updates today from Military Community and Family Policy, the Defense Finance and Accounting Service, and the Department of Veterans Affairs, organizations that play a critical role in delivering benefits and services to survivors. We're also going to cover tax planning considerations to help make informed financial decisions. We're going to highlight the College Success Roadmap series for the 2026 to 2027 academic year, unbelievably almost here, including financial aid, scholarship, and benefit resources that can help with your family's educational goals. We know that navigating survivor benefits and planning for the future can be complex, and our goal is to make those resources easier to understand, easier to access, and more useful to you and your family. After the symposium, I encourage you to explore militaryonesource.mil, where you can review all of our resources at your own pace. Most importantly today, and I'll say it again, it's an opportunity for participation and continued dialogue. Your feedback helps us understand what's working and what we can really do better. We encourage you to stay engaged throughout the session, and if you can, complete a brief survey that will be emailed to you after to help us know where we can vector follow-on symposiums. We want to hear from you so that we can improve. Thanks for being here again today. Your loved one's service and sacrifice will never be forgotten, and it's our privilege to serve you today and always. It's my pleasure to turn it back over to Brian Belke to continue today's program. Brian?
Oh, thank you, ma'am. Some more of the disclaimers. This meeting is being recorded. During the symposium, you should not be able to use your microphone or video. The chat function should be disabled, and also the raise hand. We want you to submit any questions from the Q&A. You can't really see it on the presenter's screen, but if you go to the bottom of your screen and hover, you'll get participants, chat. There's 3 buttons that say more. If you click on that, Q&A is in that list, and you can actually drag it over onto your menu bar so that it's available. If you submit the questions through Q&A, we'll get them. We'll either answer them on screen or chat back to you on there. Said, please submit any questions through the Q&A box. The panelists will respond to select questions at the end of each topic as time allows. Responses to additional questions will be answered at the end of the briefing, but hopefully before the conclusion. And a recording of this symposium will be posted to Military OneSource. We'll talk to that in a slide or two. So next slide. Ms. Kelly mentioned some of this. Today, we'll be discussing updates from the Department of War, Defense Finance Accounting Service, and the Department of Veterans Affairs. We're discussing some tax planning considerations for military survivors, and then we'll go on to details about the college roadmap or college success roadmap series, including financial scholarship and benefits resources. Next slide. We've already got the date picked for our next symposium and the topics. So our next symposium will be October 30th, and we'll have the updates again from Department of War, Defense Finance Accounting Service, and the VA. And we'll also be talking about the free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA, for the 27-28 year, and the updates. Next slide. We encourage you to stay connected by signing up for our Survivor Connection e-newsletter if you haven't, and receive symposium updates. And you also may review past Survivor Symposium recordings on OneSource. So this is the 6th symposium we've hosted. So if you're interested in watching past symposiums, you can visit the Survivor Symposium series article on Military OneSource, the second link shown there, which includes recording and transcripts of each events. And you may also find these by searching on Military OneSource for Survivor Symposium. And Erica, do you have that link open at all, or for this past symposiums? So if this is where that link will take you. If you scroll down, it lists all our past symposiums. And we wanted to point out some things. So yeah, just open the January 2026 one and see if it'll at least open for you. Now, this is, if you're actually YouTube savvy, you may already know this, but we pointed out last time, when you actually play the video, YouTube will automatically select a resolution for you based on your bandwidth. So the recording is actually high quality. When you're playing it, there is a little cogwheel in the lower right corner, which is options. You can actually try to force it in a higher bandwidth. So normally when I try to stream things from work, it forces them into the lowest bandwidth, which is 144, and the picture is as grainy as what it's showing right there. But if you go to the options, you can increase the resolution. If you get it to about a 360 resolution, it's usually good enough to view. It's not HD, but it makes it much better. And you can also mess with playback speed if for some reason it's a different speed. So if you weren't YouTube savvy, wanted to point that out. Now also from this article, if you scroll down a little more, Erica, if we get down, we have links further down for, we've got the Q&A within those. Yeah, right there, stop there. There's a link to the survivor inquiry form, which that is a form you can use at any time and submit a question you may have. That comes right to myself and Lisa, and we will get you an answer or get you connected with the help you need. So that is always available through our Military OneSource website. Anytime you run into an issue, or even if you have a suggestion, as Lisa already mentioned, most of our topics come from questions from you, the survivors. So if you're not seeing us at an event, please drop us an idea through the survivor inquiry form. And also, if you want to contact your long-term, I think scroll down a little more. There is, it's from the survivor inquiry form. There is a link there to the long-term offices of each of the services that will get you to your Army SOS, your Navy Gold Star. So plenty of ways for you to be able to reach out and contact us. And let's see. So we have the past symposiums and when this symposium ends, so you can go back to the slides. You'll receive a brief survey. Please take a few minutes to fill it out. We want to know what you feel, what you think, and the feedback helps shapes what comes next. So today we come together with a shared purpose to support survivors of active duty deaths and the dedicated professionals who work to assist them. Our goal is to provide you meaningful resources and updates. Throughout the symposium, we'll explore the support systems available to you and work to educate you on your benefits and entitlements. We truly hope this symposium provides clarity, comfort, and valuable insight. Your feedback is invaluable in helping us inform future symposiums. And please take a moment to share your thoughts when you receive the feedback after this event. So next slide. And now to start us off, our first speaker is Miss, oh, you can click through opening remarks. Yeah, thank you. Oh, or did we have these? Lisa,
all right, so.
Yeah,
yes.
So click back then. Yeah, this was not a.
Yeah, so anyways, next slide, please. So we wanted to make a DOD update. This is something that we just learned about this week, and we wanted to get this out to you all as soon as possible. So you guys are probably familiar with the term SECO, and it's now changed so that it is now called the Spouse Works. So if you go onto Military OneSource and you're looking for the SECO program, it is now Spouse Works. You still have the same benefits and so forth. But to learn more about it, if you go to the new link, which is written on the slide, you can see more information about this change. And what we're going to do is at our next symposium, we will invite our colleagues from SpouseWorks to provide you all an update on this new rebranded program. So next slide. And so SpouseWorks provides free resources and tools that can help military spouses, but also our surviving spouses to pursue their career and education goals. So there's career coaching, there's military spouse employment partnership, free Flex Jobs membership. You can get a free year-long membership to this Flex Jobs career platform. So that's really awesome. And they're specialized in vetted, flexible, and remote job opportunities. And so that is something to look at. And then you have free access to the Udemy on the demand skill development. There's more than 27,000 courses. And this is a really cool program. It can be very expensive on the outside, but for our active duty, the surviving spouses of active duty service members, this is a free benefit to you. We also have the Spouse Ambassador Network. So to learn more, check out that link. And like I said, we will have an expert to come and talk to you all about this new exciting, expanded program. So next slide. Back to you, Brian.
All right. Now, our first speaker is Miss Jennifer Harlow, who is the project manager for the Online Survivor Benefits Report, or OSBR, and she'll be giving us an update and overview on OSBR. So, floor is yours, Jen.
Thank you very much, Brian. Yes, I am with the, as Brian was saying, with the Online Survivor Benefit Report program, and we have some exciting updates and information for you. Next slide. So the overview of the program is for active duty survivors, including reservists and National Guard on orders. A benefits report is provided to the survivors and is able to provide the income of benefits now in today's dollars, as well as future lifetime milestone changes. So, for example, when a child turns a certain age, a surviving spouse works or doesn't work. And we also have an interactive report. Once the benefits start coming in, it allows the survivors to be able to access your benefits anytime, 24/7 with a login. And the information is an estimate, and the government agencies provide the exact amount. And this benefit was brought about, just like many things, with showing that survivors needed access to all of their information in one place. In addition to that, for all of you who are looking for assistance or need help with the report or access support team, and our contact information will be on another slide. And we also are available to casualty officers to assist. Next slide. And we have, we're going to go over an example of a report. I'm not going to get into the details, but this is just a sample report showing to demonstrate. In the past, I've talked about the report, but this really demonstrates why it's so important for survivors to check this and get the report from their casualty officer, and then check it themselves down the line using the interactive feature. Because as you can see, there are current benefits, and then each line represents a change in the benefit. And so this shows that the benefits change from $80,000 in this example for a service member, E6 service member who died with 2 children in the home with the spouse and a child outside the home, and showing the benefits change drastically between 2026 and 2039. And then once again, when the survivor turns 60 and is first eligible for Social Security benefits. So this is just a little snapshot to say this is why you need to check it, because not only do these milestones occur, in addition to that, every year you have a cost of living change. And over the past 6-7 years, we have had many law changes that are incorporated into the system. Next slide. So hot off the presses, we have upgraded our systems to comply with DMDC. And what that means is that DMDC, who for those who aren't quite familiar, they take care of the ID cards as well as logon, is now in the process of being replaced by the new, better secure method of MyAuth. And so now survivors will convert all of their DS logons into MyAuth accounts. So in order, just for specifically for the OSBR, if you have a DS logon account, you can convert your account to MyAuth, and you may have already gotten a proactive notice if you've used DS Logon. It does alert you in some cases to convert to MyAuth, and you create a new ID and information. It does have multi-factor authentication, which does add to a security level, which is sometimes an inconvenient, but also very good, because it just means that there's one step further to protect your information. So to connect to your interactive OSBR, survivors log in, get your MyAuth information, and then you follow up with the Family Assistance Support Team fast and provide us with your MyAuth DOD ID number. If you are not a survivor with an ID card, the other name for it is called the EDIPI, and you just provide that information to the FAST team to link your account. Once your account is linked, you have access 365, 24/7 to look at your benefit reports and do what if changes, look and see. You can go in and say, if I decide to go back to work, what does that look like? And it doesn't permanently change anything on your report. It just gives you an information. If I were to remarry, if a child goes to a federally funded academy, what do those benefit changes look like? The DMDC office has set up a very helpful website, which I've included here, that has help questions. And so those of you who do not already have a DS logon, you just go to DMDC and sign up for your MyAuth account. And there's also the toll-free number for DMDC. And then you contact FAST, and then we link your account to access your interactive report. Next slide. And what we want you to know is that the FAST team is here for all service branches. We have an email directly to our team and a phone number Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern time to 5 p.m. And we can answer benefit questions. We work very closely with the casualty offices for all service branches, as well as the long-term care folks for all the service branches, such as Survivor Outreach Services, Air Force Families Forever, Marine Corps LTAP, Navy Gold Star, and the Coast Guard Gold Star representative. So we are there to assist you and answer any questions. And with this new rollout of the MyAuth, you keep this as one of your to-do items to get in touch with the FAST team and notify us of your ID number, and we can link your account and walk you through getting a new report. Also, I'd like to say before I conclude, if technology is a barrier and you need to get an updated report, please call our Family Assistance Support team, and we are glad to be able to get you a report, send it to you securely, and answer those questions for you. Or if you've never received one at all, absolutely call us. Again, it's for active duty survivors, including National Guard and Reserve on orders. And thank you.
Thank you, Jen. We have some time for any questions. I don't see any in Q&A, but for the audience, if you go to the Q&A button, you can submit a question. We'll give it one moment here if anybody has any questions for Jen. If not, we'll answer them at the end, but please drop any questions you may have in the Q&A.
We have two questions. The first is, when sharing benefits for surviving spouses, could you include whether remarried spouses are eligible as well?
Yes, remarried spouses are eligible, and thank you for that, because I have my notes here and I was so excited to talk to everybody. I missed over a couple of my notes to say remarried surviving spouses and guardians of minor children who are in the care of the benefits for the children can get a MyAuth account and access the report. And there is a form that needs to be completed for guardians and remarried spouses to get that information. As well as Mark Dunlop, who's going to be speaking later, actually sent me some questions from the community and talking about the MyAuth. It also is helpful to link to other websites. And one of the questions Mark Dunlop had for his team was, will the MyAuth work for TRICARE? And yes, they are also converting to MyAuth. In addition, adult children can have access to their interactive or initial OSBR. So that would be a child 18 and older. They can get their own MyAuth account. And when we're at events, we encourage the young adults to access their own benefit information so they can see their education benefits and have the FAST information for questions. And the one follow back I have is that right now the MyAuth is set up to go up to age 31 as a maximum for children who are eligible for education benefits. Because of some of the law changes that show that there is no delimitation time limit date for some education benefits, I will follow back and find out if the access to the MyAuth would continue after the maximum of age 31 or 33, and I will get back to the group with that answer. And so yes, guardians, former spouses, remarried, and guardians of minor children.
Thank you. And our second question is it correct that OSBR is only available to spouses, children / guardians of dependent children and not parents?
Correct. The OSBR is essentially a tool for those that are getting monthly benefits from government agencies such as Social Security, Defense Finance and Accounting Service, and the Department of Veterans Affairs. For surviving parents that may be eligible for dependent benefits, the OSBR product doesn't exactly align and wouldn't be quite useful, because for dependent parents, the benefit is for dependent parents for VA, for example, is income tested every year. And so we do not provide information in a report form. However, dependent parents absolutely can call our help desk. And if they have benefit questions, eligibility questions, we're happy to answer that.
Thank you.
All right, so now my pleasure to introduce our next presenter, who is from the Defense Finance and Accounting Service, retired in the Newton Pay Division. Mr. Nathan Linux is a financial systems specialist, and he'll be presenting on taxes and the survivor benefit plan. So Nathan, the floor is yours.
Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Just one silly correction. I was actually promoted earlier. I'm now the Division Director of Customer Experience and Training here. But coming to these events is definitely one of the highlights of my job, and I really like the opportunity to present and to talk to the survivors and retirees when I get the chance to talk to them as well. So let's go to the next slide. So I want to talk to you today about the taxability of the survivor benefit plan. Many people may not realize this, but the survivor benefit plan is a taxable form of income. We do report to the IRS all the income that you receive through the survivor benefit plan on an IRS form 1099-R. It's similar to a W-2, just that this is the form that the IRS told us that is best for this situation. It's what we use for retirees as well. If you need to make changes to your tax status, there's a couple of different ways to do that. This slide is just an overview. I'm going to go through it a little bit more detail in the coming slides, but the IRS form W4P is the way to make that change if you're going to do that change in writing. But a much easier way is to log into MyPay and make the change there. And like I said, I will go through that as well. It's also very important that you keep your mailing address up to date with us here at DFAS Retired Pay, because we do send out, we do mail a copy of the 1099 every year in January to you, and we send other things to you through the mail as well as they come up. So to update your address, you can go into MyPay. You can call our customer care center, or you can actually do that on Ask DFAS, or you can just send us a letter to that address right there, saying to what your new address is and that you want to make that update. If you're not using a form there are forms out there to change your address. If you're not using a form, if you're just writing a letter, just make sure that you identify yourself clearly and that you put the member's social security number on that letter, and your social name and social security. You can put your old address and then put what you want your new mailing address to be, and you can submit that to us. Let's go to the next slide. I'll talk to you a little bit about some of the ways to submit it to us. Go to the next slide. All right. So speaking of forms, I also wanted to bring to your attention that we recently updated our forms page on our website. You can see the link down there at the bottom of the screen. It's dfas.mil. /RA, that stands for retired pay or retired and annuity forms, or in the upper left-hand corner of the page, there'll be a link that'll take you right to our forms page. The old way, I don't have it shown because it was just a big long list of government forms. It was just a bunch of initials and letters, and it was kind of hard to find the form that was best for you. So we reorganized it based on the intended audience for that form, and then it's broken down by use. It's really a much more user-friendly way. And this wasn't part of my original script on this, but we are also working on wizards to help with forms. There's several forms out there that are intended for annuitants to use. And that wizard is just a tool to use that helps you complete the form in the most accurate way. It'll ask you a series of questions similar to something like a TurboTax, if you've ever used TurboTax, and then it completes the form automatically for you. If it's a form that requires an actual signature, you can print it out as a PDF. If not, there are a couple forms that you can sign electronically, and it'll give you that option as well. But All of our forms are in this forms library. You just go out there, look for the survivor box, and it'll take you right to all the forms that you would need to manage your survivor benefit plan. Let's go to the next slide. So once you have that form complete, the best way to submit it to us is through Ask DFAS. As you can see up there, there's a red circle and an arrow pointing to the link. This is at our dfas.mil website. That's the landing page that you would go to for everything survivor benefit plan related from DFAS. And you'll see up there that click on that Ask DFAS link and then scroll down a couple. I think we're the third one down is retired and annuitant pay. Click on that and it'll take you right to Ask DFAS. And like I was saying, some of the forms you would have to actually print out and sign, and then you can scan them in and submit them directly to us through Ask DFAS. And the best part about using Ask DFAS is that it creates another way for us to communicate with each other without you actually having to call us. So when you submit a form to us through Ask DFAS, you have to enter an email address as well, and we will send you status updates on the process of that form that you sent us. So if you filled out a W-4P and sent it in to us, we will send you an update saying that we received that W-4P. It'll actually just say we received your form. It doesn't say exactly what the form was. And then when a technician acquires the form for processing, you'll get another update saying that a technician has it and it's being processed. And then once it's complete, you will also get a third and final update saying that action is complete, and it will either say that it is complete, or it will say something to the effect of that we need further information. Now, what we're working on, I'm just going to give you a little preview into what we're working on right now, is the ability to send you a message back directly through Ask DFAS. Right now, we would have to mail you something, but we're working on the ability to tell you what may have been wrong or what we need, and send that right back to you through Ask DFAS. So be on the lookout for that. We're hoping to get that up and running in the next year or so. You can also, while we're talking about Ask DFAS, you can also ask certain questions, and you can make an update to your mailing address right through Ask DFAS as well. It's much easier than faxing. It's much, and those status notifications give you peace of mind that we actually received it, rather than just putting the form in the mail and hoping that it gets here. Let's go on to the next slide. So if you're even more computer savvy, MyPay is the very best way to make updates to your tax status and other changes on your retired and your annuitant pay account as well. You just log right into MyPay. There's a section in there for taxes. You can go in and select your tax status and number of allowances that you want to make that change to and it's made right away. It'll affect your next paycheck. There's no waiting. There's no forms to sign. You don't have to worry about anything being filled out correctly or incorrectly. You don't have to worry about anything else. You're in control of making that change there on MyPay. So MyPay, I definitely recommend getting a MyPay account if you don't have one already and using that. You can also get copies of your 1099 right on MyPay. We're still mailing them to all annuitants, regardless of whether you're in MyPay or not. But if you don't want, if you don't want to wait for it, or if you lose it, if you need another copy of your 1099 for whatever reason, you can go right out to MyPay and pull that off there. We also have previous copies of your 1099s too from previous tax years saved out in MyPay for you. So you can make those changes to your taxes. You can update your mailing address out there as well. If you change banks and need to update your direct deposit, you can make that change on MyPay. And it's made right away. There's no waiting. You know it's done, and it'll affect your next payment. Let's go on to the next question or the next slide. Which I think might be it. Yep, and that's all that I have for you today. Like I said, it's really an honor for me to be able to come and to present at these events. Thank you to Brian for inviting me. I look forward to these all year. I'm going to check and see if there are any questions, but if not, thanks again.
Thank you, Nathan. And I think we have, looks like 2 questions that did pop in. So either you or maybe the first one, Jen, I think I know the answer, but I'll leave it for you. Is SBP payments end if the surviving spouse remarries before 55, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Yeah, right. Yes. If you remarry before age 55, they're suspended. If that marriage ends, you can come back and reapply for survivor benefits after that. But if you remain married, they do end there.
All right, and then we had.
Did you have anything to add?
Yep. Go ahead, Jen.
Nope, you covered it. And yeah, just if that remarriage ends. And then just speaking of remarriage, some new benefit changes that have come about where remarried spouses can retain their commissary and MWR activity and education benefits. So there's some new things to look out for separate from DFAS.
And thank you. And yeah, I got one more question. Are there any plans to be able to get your temporary password reset via Ask DFAS, or will it remain via the once a month USPS mailing?
I'm not sure about the Ask DFAS part, but MyPay does have 2-factor authentication now. You can call into the call center and they should be able to get you a one-time password through the customer care center, and that would avoid the waiting for the new PIN through the mail.
All right, looks like that's all we got at this time. And again, you can ask questions throughout. Thank you so much. So thank you, Nathan. And
all right, thank you.
Go to the next slide. It's now my pleasure to introduce Miss Kelly Ruska, who is the Executive Director of the Office of Survivors Assistance at the Department of Veterans Affairs, and she has some updates for you. So, Miss Ruska, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, I should say. Thank you all. Appreciate the Department of War hosting the symposium today. Just a few reminders. I wanted to remind everybody that the Office of Survivor Assistance has stood up a new monthly Survivor series. And this series is held the last Wednesday of every month from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Time. The July 24th program features the Survivor Assistance Memorial Support Program, or SAMS. It was formerly called Decedent Affairs. The SAMS offices are found in our VA hospitals, and they are expanding and will be expanding over the next few years. So we're really excited that SAMS is going to be joining us to talk about the upcoming changes. If you can't attend the program on the 24th, or if you've missed some past programs, you can find the links to the video and slides on our website, which is va.gov/survivors/survivor series. And I'll send that to Mercedes and we can post that. I also want to remind you that our 2026 Survivor Benefits and Services booklet has been updated and is available electronically on our website. Hard copies are not currently available, but they will be available in the fall. There are some changes to our website. We've now started a calendar of events, not just OSA events, but other events hosted at VA, Department of War, and other affiliate organizations. And so I would recommend that you reach out to check out the new changes to the website. But that's all we have. There are a few things that are in the works, and we're going to be looking forward to the fall to walking you through the new changes. But that's it. Any questions?
And thank you, Ms. Ruska. And yeah, a chance for anybody in the Q&A if you have any questions for Ms. Ruska. Let's see, it looks like one. Nope, we got the link posted. Hopefully you're seeing it. And doesn't look like we have any questions. Thank you.
Thanks.
So next slide. And we move on to the meat of our presentation. So our final presenter for the rest of the time we have is Mr. Mark Dunlop, who is a financial counselor for the U.S. Army, and our own Miss Lisa Valentine, who is the program manager in Casualty Mortuary Affairs and Military Honors, who will assist Mark as a moderator. He has a few topics for us, and we'll get through as many as the time allows, and anything we don't get to, we'll hold for the next time. This is actually part 4 of the presentations Mark has done. Again, if you want to see what we've covered in the past, they are posted on Military OneSource. You can see all the great information Mark has had for us. But with that, I'll hand the floor over to Mark.
Thank you. And let's move on. As I always do, is share a disclaimer. This presentation is to help identify resources and milestone topics to share with clients on how to make appropriate referrals. I also want to add that a special thanks go to Christine Murphy, one of my peers, who helped in coming up with assembling these questions that the two of us, along with Miss Lisa Valentine and Brian, we collected from you, the survivors, and you, the coordinators, had about military topics. You will see that most of the presentation are question and answers, and the questions actually are coming from you. So a big thank you for that. But the information that follows is intended to serve as a basis of discussion of financial, legal, tax, and accounting advisors. It's not a substitute for competent advice from professional advisors in their fields. I am not an attorney. I am an accredited estate planner. I don't do investments, although I'm a CFP, CHFC, and that. But the actual application of some of the concepts is the practice of law and the proper responsibility of an attorney, and for an investment of a registered investment advisor. The application of other concepts may require the guidance of a tax or accounting advisor. While the sources are deemed reliable, the links were good as of last night, the information that follows should not be relied on for preparing tax returns or for making investment decisions. Next. Moving on.
So Mark, as we're waiting for the next slide to pop up, I'm very interested in our little review from our past symposium. So what are some key tools to look at? Cash flow.
Thank you. And I know this is an overwhelming slide that when you do PowerPoints, you shouldn't do that. Well, I did it deliberately because what we found is these decks that we put together also become reference tools, not only for coordinators, but also for participants like many of you. So in the past symposiums, we looked at some key tools. For example, we looked at Military OneSource tools that are available for you, the online survivor benefit reports that we talked about, where you can do the what-if scenarios, which are so useful. We talked about some of the practical things that now guardians can request a report from the FAST team. In fact, if they have the, as was mentioned earlier, the DD3005 on file, they probably will have a MyOrth so they can actually do the interactive benefit report. So that's kind of neat. We covered that in the past things. If you go to the last call that we did in January 30th, ironically, at the 45-minute mark, we talked about some of these things. Now, for the recordings and handouts, as we mentioned earlier in this call, simply go to Military OneSource. Ironically, part 1 of this series was on tax issues, how to prepare. This one's focusing on how to plan. A little different there. So that's neat. And on our next call, we're going to talk about milestones in a more escalated manner. Now, one thing that I encourage people to do, many people say, oh, I have a Social Security account. I set it up 20 years ago. I said, oh, I'm glad you did. Very proud of you. But if you created it before September 18, 2012, you probably need to go in again, and they'll probably have you use login.gov or ID.me account, similar to how the VA has you log in to keep access to see your Social Security statements, reports. Very useful, especially if you're refinancing a home, show something tangible. So it's a very useful thing. So yes, it's nice to log into Social Security, but I'm going to tell you, in general, be sure that you have login.gov or ID.me so you can get into that system similar to the VA system. Social Security phased out its login system. If they've enhanced it, this dual authorization, there's the security of all the entities. We talked about the Department of Defense agencies with DFAS in particular. Dual security is really in. So login.gov or ID.me is wonderful to have for these purposes. And I encourage you to log into your Social Security account. Can be very useful.
All right. So next slide. And so, Mark, what are some other key databases that one should have a login for?
The login.gov, the ID.me, key, gets you in the VA, as well as Social Security, as we mentioned. But actually having the DS login /MyOrth allows you eventually to get into the TRICARE medical, properly, the dental, DEERS, and actually, as we talked earlier today with Jen Harlow, the OSBR reports. So I encourage you to set up a DS login and then go to the next level and have it to be a MyOrth account, which gives you full access of that situation. In addition, I know there's so many logins. A login again even to Military OneSource. What I encourage people to do is be sure if they're getting survivor benefit plan to have an active MyPay account. It helps you track your benefits. And I tell survivors, I'd like you to be able to log into your VA account, your MyPay account to see your SBP if you're getting SBP, be able to log into Social Security if you're getting Social Security. And I'd like you, if you have a benefits voluntary vision plan, to be able to log into that. And of course, a login to get into Military OneSource. So those are some of the things that you see there. I gave you the links. They are tangible links. So a lot of verbiage, but when you download a presentation, you see the links, and then you can cut and paste and put it in a browser. And again, as Brian mentioned, past symposiums are available for you to look at, and we appreciate your participation.
Thank you. So next slide. So Mark, another question. We talked a little bit about TRICARE for Life, or actually we talked a lot of it, in our previous symposium. But what are some of the key milestones that we should be reminded about?
That presentation we did on the 30th of January brought to light something that many survivors were surprised about. They were not aware that although they have access to a TRICARE program for life, the TRICARE for Life, in essence, is a Medicare supplement program. So at age 65, you will need to pay for Part B in most situations. That's directly with Social Security Medicare, because TRICARE is a supplement, a plan better known as what Medicare doesn't cover on an issue that Medicare covers. TRICARE comes in and helps. So that's kind of an important thing. So a couple of survivors were very candid. They didn't realize that they have to purchase Part B when they turn 65. I did not say 67, which is normal retirement date for many individuals. At 65, unless they're working, and there's a lot of exceptions to that, but in general, count on paying, in today's dollars, over $200 a month for Medicare Part B. Here are the links given for you. Not the best news for some people, but the reality is you will now have robust coverage between the two programs.
Thank you, Mark. That's very good information. Next slide, please. And so what are some of the key milestones relating to the timing of when to collect Social Security monthly benefits that we should keep in mind?
On the last call, we spent about 40 minutes on this concept because there's no one single answer. It all depends on everyone's situation. And that's the beauty of using the OSBR report. You can do what-if scenarios. You can also work with Social Security. For example, if you are not working as a spouse, but you had a good track record in terms of earning income in your career, one strategy is start drawing on your spouse's Social Security benefit at age 60. Actually, you can do it 50 if you're disabled, but age 60. And let that ride and then begin again on your record at age 70. Now, you might say, oh, I don't know if I want to draw at 60 because I get 7 years of a penalty because normal retirement date would have been 67. And in some cases, it's 65, 66. For most, it's 67. So I don't know if I want to start drawing at 60. Well, if you're not working, you get the money in. That's a choice. But at 70, you can actually do it earlier. But if you wait to 70 instead of 67 for yourself, you get bonus points, like a 24% increase in benefits. So there's a strategy of perhaps do it on your spouse and flip to yours. Now, that's the extreme. It may make sense in some cases. Now, you can do it as early as 60 as a survivor, to do it later. And it may make sense never to flip, or you might want to wait to normal retirement date to start collecting the benefits. What ifs? So key milestones, it all depends on one situation. That's the bottom line.
Thank you, Mark. Next slide. So then what are some of the milestone timelines that we covered or that we will be covering in the future symposium series segments?
Yeah, and this is just a preview for October 30th that we're putting together. So, the key thing is, in the early days, of course, you want to be able to get an ID card. And if you are, and I noticed the list of people that are logging in, some are not necessarily active duty survivors. They are M-Day, National Guard cadets on a non-drill weekend, TPU survivors, same thing for the reserves. The children, for sure, you want to, if they are being raised by a guardian or the spouse, we want them to get ID cards as soon as the death certificate is available or the 1300 is available, that, see if DEERS will give it. But yes, at some point early on, you want to get an ID card. Do you know why? We want to be sure as a survivor, they're in the medical plan and the dental plan, because that's such a key thing. Now, for the TPU survivors and the M-Day, there usually is a premium for 3 years. And then if it is service connected, often people will flip to CHAMP VA. If it's an active duty death, it will be at no premium cost for 3 years for the spouse. No, but then they can pay a little something and they're not going to lose TRICARE. And the child through age 21, 23, if they stay in school. But it's important to get that ID card early on. Within the first year, we encourage people to put money in that they get from the lump sum, the SGLI and the death gratuity, in a tax-free account, also known as a Roth IRA. Under Roth IRA, normally the limits are $7,500 if you're under 50. If you're 50 plus, it's $8,600. You can actually add to it all the death gratuity and the SGLI. The sooner it's done, the more tax-free growth period occurred. I have some people that wait to the last minute to do it. Their choice. It's a tax decision. But then for the year of interest that they were earning, it's taxable. So there's no legal rush. You have 1 year to do it. But from a tax perspective, the earlier the better to get tax-free growth. And don't worry, when you put money in a Roth IRA, there's no tax penalty to pull it out. It's your money. You can just pull it back out. So the bottom line is that's an important thing to consider. Earlier the better for tax-free growth, but there's no pressure. It's a tax decision, not an investment decision, because you can put it in just a safe account at your bank. When you want to talk investment strategy, you can do that anytime. It's just, do you want to pay taxes on the growth of the money of your Roth IRA? Yes or no? In essence, do you want to pay taxes on the growth of your money that's in from an SGLI or death gratuity? Yes or no? It's simply a tax decision. Earlier the better. Now, for the spouse, we remind people to look at their benefits. Now, that you see some documentation on third-party sources, not the VA source, saying the spouse has delimitation dates on using the FRI. No, not anymore. So look at the VA website to get the latest intel. But I tell spouses, if the death of your loved one is service connected in the line of duty, you got the FRI scholarship. And use it when you want. You save it for grad school. And for a spouse, you can continue also getting the DIC benefit. So a spouse, again, I remind spouses, the HART Act. We do bring up the final move deadline. You do get some ways to extend that, and that's important. And again, a little reminder on the TRICARE extension. So that's a very powerful concept that there is continuation coverage, but there are some milestones. not to steal the thunder for the October conference call, but do want to remind the children. The children, many people say, hey, if I turn 16, do I lose Social Security? No. But your caregiver, if you're the youngest child in the household, will lose getting that little kicker for caregiving once you turn 16. The child actually can continue the benefits in Social Security to high school graduation. Gosh, you can be 19 in 2 months and still get Social Security, but the child has to every year let Social Security know that they are not a dropout post age 18, because the benefits can go to up to, if they're still in high school, 19 in 2 months. So that's a key thing. Age 21 is a very key thing. Age 21, I tell the children, you had TRICARE to 21, medical and dental. But if your ID card expires at 21, it's gone. Oh, sure, you pay for it, TRICARE young adult. But you got to watch that ID card. Did it expire at 21? Because many times the student is in school, but the card expired. Why? Because they did not inform DEERS that they are still a full-time student by providing adequate documentation. So I noticed on the list, we actually had some teenagers on the line that I've worked with, and I think that's great. Thank you very much for being there. But please look at your ID card. See when it expires, and if it's 21, just know prior to 21, it'd be very nice. Get a note from the school, work with DEERS, get an ID card. Gosh, it can go all the way to age 23. So that works well. Now, 23, you say, can I extend it past 23? I'm in grad school. Well, good news. You can, but there's a premium, and it's actually not extending. It's a separate policy. It's basically, or a certificate, if you want to use that word. In essence, you have TRICARE for life. There are two versions, TRICARE Prime, TRICARE Select. You look at the benefits, you look at the cost, and make a decision. If you wish to continue TRICARE, yes, there's an outlay. But in most cases, if you try to shop the market in the world, you say, this is very fairly priced compared to what's offered. I have also some 23-year-olds, they're getting jobs, but they don't even offer health insurance. It's small little entities that are trying to get on their feet. Don't worry, you can have TRICARE through age 26. Actually longer if you're disabled, but let's say to age 26. Yes, there's an outlay, 23 to 26, the TRICARE young adult outlay, but very thankful, many survivors are, that is accessible. Now, age 26, historically, everyone said the Chapter 35 ended. Go to the website of the VA and look at the appropriate delimitation date based on the death of when what occurred and how old you were when the death occurred. Because there are some exceptions, many exceptions in that, to the old rules, to the tune is, I don't even call it exception anymore. It's the way it is. And so look at the new dates that are out there. Same thing with the FRI. Many people say, hey, age 33, I don't have FRI anymore. Not true in many cases for the deaths. If you were not 18 yet and you're on 1/1/2013 and the death occurred after that date, the odds are you don't have to worry about the rush to get the FRI used at age 33. And that becomes very useful. And we'll talk about that today because many people save the FRI for grad school. They apply for the FRI, but they use other benefits and they save that for grad school. It's your choice when you use the FRI, but in many cases, there's no delimitation date. There's no urgency to use that. So wetting your whistle for the 30th of October.
So thank you so much for that, Mark. And so our next slide, this is very exciting and very near and dear to myself, but also to, I think, many of our family members that are on the line. And so Mark, share this program with us.
Thank you. Every 5 years, starting 2011, so 2016, 2021, and yes, 2026. Flags are put in Art Hill in Forest Park, and it's sort of like Central Park, New York. What you're looking at is actually several acres. A flag is put in, and the flag was put on a pole. Those poles have been, almost all of them are now assembled with the flag on it, with a picture of the service member who died post 9/11 overseas, and a special dog tag that was made. They're put on metal poles, quite a few tons of metal poles. They're there. They're going to be put in and installed at Art Hill, right next to the Art Museum, on 9/5/2026. And they will be there for about 1.5 weeks, including during 9/11. I tell you, it has been amazing. When you take the dog tags and the wind goes there, you hear them clinking, and you're just reminded and brings back memories of so many of ours that have given their life. We have families that come in from Maine, California, Seattle, and of course, nearby in Missouri, that come for a time of reflection in this amazing tribute. Putting the flags in the ground on the 5th will be done by over 1,200 volunteers. And many of them have volunteered their time to put this flag with the dog tag and the picture together, a way of showing respect. And that's what this is all about. So it'll be a wonderful program. If you need more information on it, please just let the team know, and we'll make sure that you get the information on that. What a way to honor those that gave their life overseas. But this year they're doing something else. They're going to have a special large flag, a tribute flag, to also acknowledge those that died of PTSD, and a special acknowledgement for those that died 9/11 exactly on that day in various locations like the Pentagon. So that means a lot. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Mark.
Look at that website, by the way.
Yes, so we'll make sure that Mercedes puts that also in the chat so that you guys can easily access that. And so if you're in the St. Louis, Missouri timeframe during that area, you may want to go in and check that out. That's very beautiful. Next slide. All right, so now we're going to move into the proactive tax planning considerations. I think this will be very interesting, and I think it could probably even affect, or, this is going to be like great information just for people who may not be surviving family members. So next slide.
Thanks.
So,
yeah.
So Mark, tell us about these proactive financial considerations that we should consider.
Great. And I thank you for sharing that question. So often we focus on preparing the taxes, but being proactive about the future and planning to minimize taxes in the future has become so important. I often say there's a difference between a savings decision, an investment decision, and a tax decision. Save the money. I encourage people, especially early on in the relationship, save it. Don't make any rash decisions, especially when you just get it. I've a few times have had the honor to work with a survivor, but it already was 2 months after the casualty. 2/3 of the saving of the SGLI and death gratuity were either given away, went into unique investments, and instead of helping them manage a decision of $600,000, we're doing it on $200,000. So I say early on, just make a savings decision. If that is to put in the bank and let it sit there for a while, great. I applaud that. There is no rush to make an investment strategy, though. I'm saying just, do you want to save some of the money or not? You want to make an investment decision? There's no rush. There's no rush. Once you want to move into more of an investment strategy, that there is no timeline to do that whenever you want to do it. But a key thing, and I mentioned earlier, the key thing is the tax decision. Do you want to pay tax on the growth of the money, yes or no? Now, the law says you have a year to make that decision. Why they give a year? That decision, do you want to pay taxes, yes or no, is almost not a difficult one. So I encourage people, as they get the money, the death gratuity, make a tax decision. I don't want to pay taxes on the growth of the money, and you make the appropriate transaction. You are not making an investment decision. You're making a tax decision. Same thing with the SGLI. Make a tax decision. I don't want to pay taxes on the growth of the money. And by the way, that'll help you even when you fill out FAFSAs. So that's a key thing. They overlap. The investment is the one. Take your time. Nothing to rush into. But make a mental decision not to throw the money away, give it away, or just do impulsive retail therapy early on. And please, make a tax decision. I don't want to pay taxes on the growth of the money. Preserving the legacy. I often tell people, what is your objective to do with that $600,000 if you're getting $600,000? And most people say it's to preserve the legacy. Maybe we pull a little bit out or the interest a year tax effectively, but I want the legacy of my loved one to be remembered for future generations, for nieces, nephews, children. Because if it is, for example, a spouse who's getting eventually Social Security, VA benefits, the educational benefits included, the monthly flow, the survivor benefit plan. In reality, this money might not really be needed right now, but if you can have it grow tax-free, it can be a legacy. Wonderful thing. I often tell people, what are your goals? What's your short-term goals and what's your long-term planning? Many people don't have an opportunity to really sit down and figure that out, and that's okay. But you'd say, before you start writing checks and spending the money and paying $40,000 on a new vehicle, what are your ultimate goals? I also tell people, look at the Social Security milestones. I had a spouse literally this morning said, should I go back to work? I don't want to jeopardize getting I call it the caregiver benefit. I don't want to jeopardize that. And I said, well, why don't you go part-time? Keep the earnings somewhat under 25,000. That's a round number. And work this way. You'll have the satisfaction of working for a while. You enjoy that. No one's saying go totally back. You don't have to, and it won't jeopardize your Social Security benefit in terms of what you receive. There's some tax issues, but a wonderful thing. Don't feel pressed to do that. There's no rush. So analyze Social Security milestones. Now, other milestones to look at. First of all, I tell people, make sure the child, when he turns 18, as we mentioned earlier, let Social Security know that they're still in high school if they're still in high school. If someone turns disabled prior to that time, or when while they're in high school, let Social Security know that. And as someone comes up to 60, start doing the math. Should you start drawing the spouse's Social Security benefit? Or maybe wait to 62 and draw in yours? I also bring up the age 65 issue because the age 65 is Medicare. So just notice how it's all coming together. I say in scholarship strategy, the phrase saving the fry. Apply for the fry when you're eligible for the fry, but you might not want to use it right away, especially because there's so many nonprofit 501c3 groups that want to support and help the family, especially with the new FAFSA considerations that we're going to address in a little bit, that you might just want to save the fry. You apply, keep it in your hip pocket, ready to go. Now, if you go to a super expensive school, when you want to use the yellow ribbon provisions, you might want to use the fry for undergraduate. But for community college, I will say it's available, but if your goal is to then go to a four-year school, get a master's, maybe a PhD, watch. You only have 36 months of fry. And when I say only, that's a lot. That's 4 years. But it doesn't mean you have to use it as undergraduate. So that's called scholarship strategy. We'll spend time on this. I also say look at the life insurance and liquidity considerations. What? Well, remember, many spouses had 100,000 FSGLI at the time of the casualty. Many spouses don't convert it. They're welcome to do that within the period of time, but they don't. And I also say, do you have enough liquid cash in the event something happens to you? I hope it doesn't. Do you have adequate life insurance? If not, you might want to address that situation because you had 100,000 before the casualty. And life insurance is great. It helps address liquidity considerations upon a death. I also tell people look at the estate considerations. Many of our survivors, when everything occurred, did not take the time, and this is just in love, I share it, to update or create a will. And many had children. So I encourage to make and find the time. JAG can assist you on it. Financial Point can assist you on it. There are many resources that can assist you on it. Your own private attorney can help on it. There might be a fee for that. But look at your situation. Do you have an active will, especially after the casualty? I also say double check who are the beneficiaries of any assets you have. Remember, in most states, when you leave money to a minor might not be able to touch it until they're 18. unless a conservator was named in advance, or a conservatorship was set up in advance, or a trust was set up in advance. So again, talking with an estate planner is very helpful to do, especially if the ultimate goal is to help children that are still minors. So that's a powerful thing. I also tell people to address the health and dental. Now, if you're a guardian, and I notice on the list of those on this call, we have several guardians. If you are a guardian for a child, yes, it's important for you to have DEERS recognize you with DD 3005 on file, and also see that the child has the ID card. That's good. But it's also important to have the HIPAA forms, in essence, on file with your health vendor, which probably is Tri-West or Tri-East Humana, with your dental vendor, which is TDP, which if you are not in the TRICARE, if you're in Champier, similar type of consideration, that they know who you are. And of course, with the vision plan, which is BENEFEDS, BENEFEDS, that's the vision eyeglass plan. Make sure they know who you are, especially if you're a guardian. So that's important to be able, you can log into the accounts as appropriate with the health and dental especially. Yes, spouses can do that, but I want to be sure that the guardians can do that too. And then I say, please address tax issues due to the retro pay. Many people for a while had SBP not paid, and then they get a lump sum. Remember, lump sum or monthly statement, as mentioned earlier on the call, survivor benefit plan is taxable. Unpaid and allowances is also taxable. Unpaid allowances is also taxable. I brace people for that. Many people get the unpaid allowances maybe 2 months after the casualty, and then come January, there's a 1099 that goes to the address that was on file. Might not be the address where the survivor is who got the unpaid allowances, but the IRS got a copy of that too. So I tell people, proactively, be sure you're tracking what was the unpaid allowances. Finally, on this topic, interest of funds from the time of the casualty to the time you put the money in a Roth IRA, any growth is taxable. So if it was sitting at Prudential for a little bit of time, that amount technically is interest. If you decided a while to make a decision if you want to have tax-free growth of the money or not, hopefully there's growth, or not, that's taxable until you placed it in that Roth IRA. Cash outs from a non-Roth thrift savings account or from a non-Roth individual retirement account is taxable. Now, here's an interesting thing. I have some people that fund a Roth and then they pull money out of Roth maybe to buy a house. Okay, I get it. If you make a withdrawal from a Roth IRA, please tell the IRS when you fill out the forms that next year on your taxes for the prior year that you made a withdrawal up to your cost basis, COST, out of your cost basis. Then when you fill in the form with the IRS that it's a return of the cost basis, your withdrawal from the Roth IRA is not taxable. Lisa.
Wow, that's a lot, Mark. And I know we've got more, but you know what? I want to do a quick plug-in for our surviving family members and just for anybody that's, listening to this symposium. August is the National Make a Will Month. And I will tell you that at the Department of War, we do have tools to help you, because I tell you, it's like a big elephant. I mean, looking at all these just proactive financial considerations, it's a big elephant. So it's like, how do you break it down and, into bite sizes? So what we have is on Military OneSource, we have we've changed it into a workbook. We had an asset worksheet, and we now have a estate planning workbook. And so it does just that. It takes that elephant and it breaks it down and can kind of guide you, but you really want to go to your lawyer. And if you're a surviving spouse of an active duty service member who died, or you are of a retiree, you are eligible to receive assistance from the local Judge Advocate General. So you can go on base, you can make an appointment. They even have little worksheets that you can fill out if you go online. So I recommend checking that out. We also have an e-learning course. And with our e-learning course, it's like watching a video. It gives you information. And what's so cool about it is it's free. You can watch it at your own pace. If you need to take a break, you take a break. You can come back to it later. You can watch it as many times as you want. And if you run into, questions and so forth, if you're a surviving spouse of an active duty, you can contact Military OneSource and they can get you help. And then, of course, you can also contact your long-term case manager. And if they're not sure, Mark always has an open door, and he will help out those long-term case managers. So just know that's out there for you. So, Mark, I know we talked a lot, but what are some other proactive financial considerations?
Well, I often say do a strategic financial framework. Look at the pillars. Make sure you understand savings, which does give liquidity, investment, which could give enhanced growth or loss, and there's no rush. There's no rush. And tax efficiency. The earlier, the better. If you need 364 days to do it, hey, I'm not pushing you, but remember that 363 days before you do it is taxable growth. And realize that they interact. Look at the planning horizons. Look at your immediate liquidity needs. Now, I've had some people that did not get the life insurance and did not get the death gratuity and say, did you apply for Social Security, get that kick started? Okay, look at that. Did you apply at least for the VA? Hopefully we get service connected in a timely manner. Did you apply for the SBP if it's appropriate? I encourage people not pushing. I always need line of duty in the later. But remember, the relief societies, if money is tight, are there for you to consider. And in many cases, historically they've done loans, but for many of our survivors, they'll do grants if need be. So look at the short-term needs that you may have, liquidity needs included on that, and we can actually help you put a plan together for a strategy early on. Now that's planning horizons. One thing that I found is so popular, and working with Christine Murphy, CHFC, AFC at Fort Lee, is the legacy situation. We have seen that preserving the legacy is a very important concept with many of the spouses. Preserving the legacy, limited risk, opportunity for growth, opportunity that their children's children will know that there was money set aside by a loved one, the service member, on their behalf. So preserving the legacy for intergeneral wealth transfer has become a very common trend, and we can guide you on helping that goal and objective. It is the objective, and apparently it is, for many individuals, can be fulfilled. Now, there's some survivor-specific tax and income considerations. The retro payments, the unpaid allowances, and any retro SBP, especially if line of duty took a few months to come into place, is taxable. And often on the lump sum check, in some cases, taxes wasn't withheld. So we got to consider that. We got to just realize it's out there. Pre-rollover interest. Mention it. Very important. If for some reason you needed 364 days to put the money in a Roth, that interest that accumulated during that period of time is taxable. Retirement accounts, you got to be careful. If you cashed out assets like the TSP and didn't just, for a spouse, put in their own name or roll it over to an IRA or an inherited IRA or a Roth IRA or inherited Roth IRA, if you just cashed it out, unless it was Roth, taxable event. Got to be reported. If you forget to report it, guess what? The IRS is getting the 1099, so they know. So we want to be sensitive to that and just remind people you'd want to track. You might have to pick up the phone call if you didn't get the 1099 because the IRS did. So you have some of those things. And then Social Security. Now, technically, Social Security is reportable, and technically it's taxable. Now, it could be income so low that there's no tax due, but it is reportable and it could be taxable. So that's not like the VA benefit, tax-free. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes, of what's taxable, what's not. Now, part of proactive financial considerations are estate considerations. I encourage people to look at the estate plan. Now, for me, yes, I have a will and designate my lovely wife as the beneficiary, but I have contingent beneficiaries. And that's important. When they were minors, I had someone to care for them if something happened, and I can change that often. I can change the beneficiaries. But that's only half of estate planning. The other half of estate planning, and I'll tell you, for me, it was a pain. I had to go to all my assets that I owned and to put a beneficiary and a contingent beneficiary. My retirement accounts, my TSP accounts, my bank accounts, my checking accounts, my brokerage accounts. I wanted to be sure everything had a beneficiary and a contingent beneficiary. So when I die, it passes on. Now, in some states, and actually in many areas, you may also want to have a contingent beneficiary on who owns the trust if the trust owns the house, if you went that direction. Who are your contingent beneficiaries? And that's a very interesting consideration because assets with contingent beneficiaries are not subject to probate. So I ask people to just spend some time, perhaps seeing an estate planning attorney, perhaps just have a dialogue with JAG for direction to talk about some estate plan considerations. After the casualty, I realized there was so much going on. But at some point, you may want to look at that because that becomes a very vital portion of legacy planning. The education strategy, hey, when do I use the fry? If you plan on grad school, do you save it? When do I use the nonprofit organizations? Remember, many of our nonprofit organizations start giving benefits for education as early as kindergarten. Folds of honor and folded flag. Ironically, I'm drinking my coffee on a Folds of Honor mug, and that just reminded me of them. So it's kind of like, wow. There are groups out there that want to help you take advantage. Now, Folds of Honor and Folded Flag, yes, they do college. They do all the way to PhD. I kind of say K to PhD, depending if you qualify for their grants and scholarships. And their window opens in February through for Folds of Honor, and for Folded Flag opens in April. So that's an interesting thing. Education strategy, kind of how this all ties in. More on education later. Liquidity insurance. Mentioned it before, I mention again. Very important concept. If death occurs, how liquid is cash to pay the mortgage payments if it's there, the heat bills, the lawn service, if applicable? Is there enough liquid cash until the dust settles? So that's why having some life insurance for a survivor might be applicable. Lisa.
So sorry about that. So anyways, let's go on to the next slide. This is very good information. And so what are some examples of taxable versus non-taxable benefits?
Taxable. Survivor benefit plan. Now check with your state if it's taxable. But federally, yeah, it's taxable. It's reportable and taxable. Sir, SGLI, that in and of itself is not taxable, but the interest that it comes from it is taxable. That's why the urgency of addressing the Roth IRA is there. And again, someone says, I don't know if I want to make a tax decision, yes or no. I said, that's your prerogative, but you probably do want to not pay taxes on the growth. And remember, there's nothing scary putting it in a Roth IRA because you can always pull out the cost basis at any time with no tax penalty. Unpaid allowances, taxable. Basic housing allowance, I want to make a distinction, is tax exempt. The BAH, that 1 year BAH that many spouses get or children, that is not taxable. So that's a little clarification there. Social Security could be taxable. The thrift savings plan, if withdrawn and it was a non-Roth, taxable. So I have that all in one slide summarizing what we spent the last 10 minutes on. Now, non-taxable. The death gratuity, the one-time payment of $100,000, not taxable. And whenever it's paid out, there's no interest on it. You get that lump sum. So you don't have to worry about, oh, what was the interest? So it's paid there. And again, if you put in a Roth IRA, you don't pay taxes on the growth. SGLI, the principal, not taxable. DIC, it's a VA benefit, not taxable. The Social Security lump sum death benefit is a one-time benefit of $255, not taxable. Anytime you withdraw from your Roth IRA or Roth TSP or your Roth IRA that was set up under the HEROES Act of 2008, if reported properly, that is return to cost basis, especially if it was a Roth withdrawal, not taxable. Any VA benefit, not taxable, and that includes the VA educational benefits housing stipend. The Fry benefit, the DEA, not taxable. The $1,200 potential Montgomery GI Bill refund, not taxable. Lisa.
Wow. So next slide. So we talked about taxable versus non-taxable, but then what if I want to learn more about, IRS rules? So what are some helpful IRS links?
Well, a common one I get from parents that are trying to fill out a tax return on behalf of their loved one, and we can help them. Military OneSources are available to help them, and we have other resources that are there. In fact, we covered a lot of that in our first of this series when we did financial milestones. If you need help, we can get that for you. But Form 1310, it's like a cover sheet. So when you fill out a tax return on behalf of deceased, you simply fill it in why you're filling it in. You say, hey, I am the mother. I am the appropriate person to fill in the tax return. There was no spouse. And that's why you can make a tax return for me. I kind of call it like a fax cover sheet. It tells the IRS why you're filling out the tax return on behalf of a service member who passed away. And then you mail it in the normal way. Now, if it was a theater death, there's a special P.O. box that it goes to in Kansas City. But in general, you treat it just like a regular tax return. You just have a cover sheet, Form 1310. Now, I gave a list of other resources that are out there for you. IRS.gov has some great contact numbers. When they say, let us help you, they really mean it. Their website has been enhanced, and it's very efficient. There's also the Taxpayer Assistance Center office locator that is available, self-service tools. If there was a small business involved that you need help on, they have that available for self-employed. The earned income tax credit that becomes an issue. How to fix a tax return. This is becoming more and more popular, especially with some of our theater debts because of the abatement. They can, in many cases, get past year's taxes that were paid. If it was like the second deployment, for example, to a combat zone, they can get the tax return amended and get that as a refund. So you have that available. So there are many tax preparation options. Check on the refunds status. There's a resource for that. And I tell people, don't forget Section 125 plans. If you're not aware of it, you have a link. There's some unique benefits on the Section 129 plans that are available. Great. Lisa.
So, Mark, I think we have some questions out there that may tie in, so I don't want to jump too far. So, Erica, could you or Brian go through the questions? Or I can see one. It says, are parents of deceased service members responsible for paying any owed taxes on their adult child behalf?
Usually there's a refund because the person worked a partial year. So, and the IRS doesn't care. Let's say there are two parents and they're separated. IRS doesn't care who does the return. First one in the gate following the 1310. So that's the more common question, who's getting the refund? So that's the more common one. Now, if you feel that there are taxes that were due, in my years, I've not seen that. I've usually seen the refund. But if there's something that's due, my bigger question is who closed out the estate? And were there any creditors that were owed? What were the assets of the estate versus the liabilities of the estate? Now, a parent, if let's say the parent's getting the SGLI, they don't have to use their personal assets to pay off the liabilities of the deceased in most situations. So now this becomes an estate planning question. So my follow-up question is, who closed the estate? Who notified all the other creditors? In fact, a pretty good practice is sending a credit report to the three agencies, Equifax, TransUnion, Experian, to make sure no one else opens credit on them. And look at all the negative flows. Then look at all the positive flows and see if there really even is an estate. So every case is different. I or any of the financial counselors can kind of look at the broad thing. If need be, we can coordinate with JAG to see what the unique things. But when I get that question, and if I got it once in the last 17 years, because usually there was a refund, it turned out that we didn't even notify the creditors of the death. And so every case is going to be unique. So let's look at that on a one-on-one basis.
That sounds good. Thank you so much. And then Mark, so what are some common questions on tax financial planning?
Proactive tax planning, basically putting as much money in a Roth as you can. We'll talk about more about that later. I encourage people, knowing that you can always pull money out of the Roth IRA at any time. Just report to the IRS when you fill out taxes the next year that it's not going to be a taxable event. Max out your Roth every year any way you can. At work, your Roth, your personal Roths. Proactive tax planning. Roth is a wonderful way to be proactive on tax planning. Then we also look at the investments that they have. Are you in high growth assets? And that with your financial planner, you can kind of see, okay, are you generating growth assets or assets that spin off big dividends, and what works best for your situation? Now, tax withholding considerations is another question that I'm often asked. I said, double check with SBP. I'm glad that we talked about that earlier. Often people are not having enough taxes come out of their survivor benefit plan, especially with all the increases we've been getting over the years. So I tell people, reevaluate. If you owe taxes, change your tax withholding. And earlier on this call, we talked about how to change the tax withholding, ideally through do it online. Change your tax withholding. How do I import tax information when doing applications such as FAFSA? That has become a simple process. When you do your FAFSA, it can download, this is relatively new, your tax information. So manually doing that process is minimized because there's now a link to just download and put it in. How does Social Security and survivor benefits income tax impact tax planning? Well, if you're earning, in essence, over certain amounts, one, you're going to be in a higher tax bracket, and two, the Social Security could be taxable. If you need the tables, I can get a few, but the bottom line is, remember, SBP is taxable. Most likely, a good chunk of the Social Security is going to be taxable, especially if it is a benefit that you're getting in addition to other benefits. How does the Roth and non-Roth TSP, 401k, IRA impact tax planning? If you withdraw at any time non-Roth assets, put in your pocketbook, there not only can be penalties on the interest that grew, but also on the principal if it was non-Roth. And if it's part of 59.5, depending on certain situations, that could be generating some additional tax situations. Politely, could be even a penalty. Non-Roth, when you pull it out, it's yours in general, but you just got to report it. Non-Roth, to withdraw your non-Roth IRA, when you pull it out, and tell the IRS that you pulled it out, it is not a taxable event. Most people don't realize that, and as a result are scared to put money in the Roth because they think pulling the money out, it could be, I don't want to have that potential issue. It's not an issue. What are potential Roth opportunities going forward? Again, I say if you can maximize as much as you can, go in. If you miss the 1-year deadline to put money in a Roth IRA, fine, just maximize your Roth going forward. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. How to report Roth distributions. There's an IRS form. Your software, if you use Military OneSource on it, just it pops up. Just report it. Legacy planning considerations. Remember, if you have assets that grow and then you pass away, in most cases, the step up in basis is not taxable. Now your heirs inherited your property with that step up in basis with no tax consequences. And that's part of the legacy planning as a financial counselor that we remind people of. Lisa.
So let's go to the next slide.
And hey, Lisa, we did have another question if you think it's a good point.
Sure. Yes.
Here's the question was, why would a surviving child using a Fry scholarship at a VA vetted and verified collegiate program at a local public community college is accredited be denied their continued use of their MIL ID after 21 if they are enrolled full time? And actually reading that may be more a VA question.
The MIL ID, if they're not getting SBP, if they're not getting the survivor benefit plan, they wouldn't be getting it, but they're entitled to an ID card all the way to age 23 at the DEER's office with proof that they're in school. And on the VA, they should be able to log in with login.gov or the other website to log in. So I'm not sure. Anyone else want to chime in?
I concur with you, Mark, that the child would be eligible for an ID card while in school, and up to age 23, because of the full-time college status. So this is actually for that the ID card specifically. It would be a question for DMDC, the ID card office, but as the only thing I wasn't sure is this ID card prohibiting the child from getting benefits? If the child's getting benefits and it's just specifically an ID card issue, then the DEER's DMDC office is the best place to start.
I'm glad we have these questions. Thank you for that.
And that looks like it for right now. So we'll turn it back to you.
All righty. So let's go to the next slide, which is, we talked about the Roth IRA, Mark, and so I think this can benefit everybody. So how can we make the most of my Roth or of our Roth IRA?
And I want to make a distinction on this question that came in. Roth IRA, you're doing outside of the work environment. We always talk about Roth TSP or Roth 401k. I'm saying Roth or a Roth plan at your public school system. We're talking about Roth IRA. Roth IRA, it is powerful. It's an investment growth opportunity if the investment you selected grows. So I encourage people, if they physically can, to put the max into their Roth each and every year. I'm over 50. I can put in $8,600 into my Roth IRA, and come January 2nd, that's exactly what I did. I didn't do it through work. I did it through a private thing, and I put in my $8,600. I also asked my daughter, actually all four of my children, to fund their Roth IRAs, and with $7,500, the max they could do, if they had earnings or if their spouse, if they were stay-at-home parent and their spouse had enough earnings to justify it, put in the $7,500, the max. And if they needed money, like to get a transmission of a car, they can always pull that out. Just don't forget to fill out the right form. So I encourage people to max out their Roth each and every year. Now, as a parent, there was a few years when not all my children could fund the Roth. Part of my legacy planning was, I had some cash. I gave them $7,500. They had earnings that they could fund the Roth, and they put it in a Roth IRA. So Roth growth, tax-free. Very powerful concept. Under 50, $7,500. You just have to have earned income, or if you're married, got to have enough income to justify between the couple. $8,600 for 50 plus. There's actually some provisions you can put a little extra in the early 60s, but bottom line is max out your Roth IRA. Do it when you want. If you want to do installments, you can. I did in the beginning of the year, hoping for growth. Everyone's different. Yes, it makes it tough now on cash flow, but I'm so glad I have money growing tax-free, and if I really need the money, I can pull it out. Now, the HEROES Act of 2008 says, in addition to those limits I give, you can put all the SGLI and all the DG in. It's liquid. You can pull it out at any time. So that's called a qualified rollover contribution. You have up to 1 year to do, but why wait? It's not an investment decision. It's, you're doing savings? Great. I'm proud of you. It's a tax decision. If you want to delay, do the taxes to the tail end. As I mentioned earlier, you do not have to, you will have to pay taxes on the growth. So the earlier, the better. So how to make the most of the Roth? I mean, the extreme is do it on January 2nd. Now, Roth is interesting. If you want to wait until April 15th of the following year and do it a retro for the prior year, you can with a Roth IRA. Lisa.
So let's go to the next slide. So what are some proactive tax planning that we should do related to the TSPs, the 401ks, the 403bs for our working survivors?
Yeah, and I have a lot of parents in this boat, some spouses in this boat. It's key. Let's talk about spouses for a second. First of all, if there was a TSP and you're now getting your spouse's TSP accessible to you, you can actually just keep it there. Just put in your social number and you can pick an investment strategy that meets your asset, that meets what you feel is appropriate asset allocation for you. The inherited IRA is an option. roll it over to an inherited IRA, roll it over to an inherited Roth IRA, keep it with the beneficiary account. So that is a lot of options. Roll it over to your IRA. There is your Roth IRA. So you have a lot of flexibility on what to do with the funds. But the bottom line is growth in a program gives tax efficiency. If it's in Roth, you don't have to worry about taxes when you pull out the money. The Roth TSP and Roth 401k gives a powerful tax-free growth. For 2026, if you are working and you can afford it, I tell people try to put the max you can if you can afford it. In general, $24,500. Set it aside. Now, you might say, how am I going to put milk on the table? Well, if you have other cash somewhere else or you miss the deadline to put some money into the Roth IRA under the HART Act, fine. You can now stuff it in, or if you're working, into a Roth program. You can now stuff it in, into a Roth program at work. And if you're over 50, you even have some catch-up provisions that are out there. So you have some of that flexibility. So in theory, you have a lot of opportunity. I had one couple, a parent couple, that for some reason was missed under the radar, didn't even know that they could put the money in the Roth IRA, and they missed the 1-year deadline. Just totally didn't know. So I said, you know what? Are you both working? They both were. They were over 50. I said, fine. Hey, it's not the solution you didn't have the chance to put $600,000 in a Roth IRA in a lump sum, but you know what? I got something that you can do. Why don't you max out your Roths at work and your personal Roths, each of you? So between the two of them, they were able to put $82,200 in a Roth this year. They'll be able to put $82,000 plus cost of living next year, the following year, fine. They got the money put into the Roth. So it's not as wonderful as to do it in a lump sum. Turned out they were only planning to put $100,000 into the Roth anyhow because they were doing home improvements on their home. So the bottom line is we took care of the problem. We just did it a little different way. It is a Roth, so they max out the Roth at work, living off of some of the money that's in their bank account, and they're maxing out their Roth as an IRA. So that's a wonderful proactive solution. Now, there's a side note. Remember I said if you're in the young 60s to mid 60s, 60 to 63, there's a super catch-up provision for 2026. It's an enhanced limit. So instead of that catch-up that I mentioned, it is $11,250. So in essence, if you're a 60 to 63, you can get an additional through work $3,250 in a tax advantage account. But when you turn 64, it goes back to the catch-up normal limits. Bottom line is you can put money in Roth. So if you miss the 1-year deadline for some reason, and I don't run into that too often anymore, but if you miss that one-year deadline, you know what? Just fund your Roth to the max if you're eligible for it. And for the few cases where people miss the deadline, it usually were parents that somehow it just didn't occur, a dialogue to talk about the HART Act, fine, max out your Roth, and we can help you understand the strategy to do that. Lisa.
Thank you so much, Bart. Let's go to the next slide. So, Mark, can you provide us an overview of our TSP options?
Again, there are 3 that I focus on, and it's outlined in the Thrift Savings Plan Death Benefit Guide that is available at the link below. We have the beneficiary participant account when the survivor's spouse maintains the funds with the TSP. Very popular. Continued investment access. They can change the investment strategy. Very popular. We have the spousal rollover when they transfer to a spouse IRA. But if they need the monies at certain points, there are different rules that fall into play of when they pull out the money and what is the taxable things, and some forced distribution things if it is a traditional IRA. Minimum distribution rules in the 70s. Bottom line, it is a very viable option. We also have the inherited IRA. We have the inherited IRA when you basically put in an inherit account acknowledging the death of the loved one. There are some distribution requirements that are applicable as well. Slight differentials on spousal IRA, inherited IRA, and again, we can go over the details on it, but there are 3 essential options, and it's summarized in the booklet that you see on the link.
Thank you so much. That sounds like a wonderful book to read. So next slide. So the next question is, what are the employee contribution limits for 2026?
Yes, as I mentioned a little earlier, but I want to crystallize and show the numbers. So 24/5, you can push into a Roth. And many people do, especially the parents saying, oh, shoot. And sometimes even if they maxed out their Roth IRA due to the HEROES Act of 2008, they say, I can put more into Roth funds, yes, through work 24/5. Catch-up provisions, we talked about being over 50, another 8,000, and between 60 and 63, the super catch-up is available. So you have some of those things that are out there. So you have that opportunity with those type of programs. Now, the 2026 traditional and Roth contributions. Again, I make the distinction. We have Roth, 401k, 403b, TSP, corporate, with an employee contribution. But you also have the traditional Roth limits that you can also do $7,500 if under 50 during the year, 50 plus $8,600. Great opportunities to stuff. We talk about proactive tax planning. We just nailed it. Lisa.
Thank you, Mark. Next slide, please. So then what are the main features of what they call Secure 2.0 legislation?
I give the link, the TSP link that you see on the left side. It talks about some of the issues, especially if you want to max out how much you can put into your programs at 60, 61, 62, 63 type of thing. You know, the catch-up provisions. It's well done and documented. You have that link about TSP. I encourage people to, if they are eligible for the TSP, now a surviving spouse not working for the military is not eligible. You have to be working for an employer to do it. Not eligible for the TSP version, but the concept's the same no matter who you work for. So you could have a parent that's still working. You could have a spouse that's working, maybe for anything. The concept is the same under Secure 2.0 of how to push money into a Roth. And then some of the concepts we talked earlier, you also have the links about inherited Roth IRA and all the unique benefits that are out there. Now, one thing on the Roth that many people are not aware of, there is a day of reckoning when the party's over in terms of tax-free growth of a Roth. If someone gets a Roth, they get tax-free growth for the rest of their life. Then when they die, it goes to the beneficiary or contingent beneficiary if there's no living beneficiary. Cool. But that's not unlimited. In general, it's 10 years. A few exceptions for minor children and in some other situations. But the bottom line is the tax-free growth only continues for about 10 years to the survivor. So if someone's 50, they live 40 years, they got tax-free growth for 40 years, whatever they leave in the account. Then their heir, 10 years in general. Hope that helps. Lisa.
Thank you. Next slide. So then what are some other proactive tax planning techniques that we should keep in mind?
This is a very interesting concept. And here you would really meet with your financial planner to discuss concepts or your tax planner to discuss concepts. I'll use myself as an example. When I was young, there was no Roth. So I maxed out as I could my 401k plans or my traditional IRAs. I maxed them out. It made sense. There was no Roth. As that grows, someday there's a day of reckoning that I'm going to pay taxes on that growth. That's an issue. Oh, and I'd rather kind of pay taxes now while I know my marginal tax bracket than later on when it could be higher, not because I'm earning more, just because tax brackets might go up. Also, I don't want to have too much income, especially because my Medicare B premium is based on my income. So I don't have too much of taxable income in the later years to trigger surcharges on my Medicare B premium when money is pushed out, either by my choice or by forced distributions due to my age in the 70s. So strategy, this is an advanced strategy that your financial planner can guide you with, is perhaps converting some of your qualified funds to Roth. It's taxable. You'll pay taxes April 15th of the following year, but then all the growth for the Roth for the rest of your life will be tax-free. So do you want to bite the bullet now or later? But if you have some money that's in a 401k, this applies to all Americans. If you have money in a 401k or an IRA that is non-Roth, you can, under most circumstances, convert some of it. It is taxable. Now, let's say you have some special accounts. There's other proactive strategies. For example, if you have a health savings account, or in some cases you have a college savings account set up, there's some ways to get that into a Roth as well. That could be a strategy. I did not make a slide for that, but there's some strategies of, in essence, bringing funds into the Roth platform, even beyond the limits that we discussed for the last 5 minutes. So we have the Health Flexible Savings Account. You can put money in the Health Flexible Savings Account if you end up not wanting it for healthcare purposes in the later years. If you're eligible for a health savings account, there are ways of converting that. I encourage people to max out, if they can, in a Health Flexible Savings Account. I'm a government employee. I'll tell you, I max them out every year. So my out-of-pocket medical bills come from my Health Flexible Savings Account. So that's kind of neat. If you had an HSA, which is a little different, a health savings account, there's the rollover. So there's a lot of rules that are out there. If it's a flexible spending account or an HSA, maximizing that with meeting your needs, we can look at that on an individual basis. If it's a pure HSA, which most people, a lot of parents have, not necessarily spouses, but a lot of parents have, something to look at. Are you maxing out for your health spending account? And in some cases, taking advantage of the fact that you don't need everything in the account of the conversion opportunity potentials. Dependent care flexible spending account. I'm really big on that. This year, that limit went up from $5,000, which it was for countless years, to $7,500. I know I have grandchildren. I mean, as they may go to daycare, if we're not sure of the situation, it's a moot point. The bottom line is, if they do, we know that we can put money in a flexible spending account, dependent care flexible spending account, have them use some of that money to pay the daycare costs, and it saves on some tax situations. I tell individuals, when you're looking at proactive strategies, talk to your tax planner, discuss the options. Do you have an FSA at work? Do you have an HSA at work? Do you have a dependent care at work, if it's applicable? Are you taking advantage of the programs? How can you take advantage of it? And most employers, including federal government, host open enrollment meetings, usually in November for the following year. Additionally, a qualifying life event, such as changing marital status or the birth of a child, provides special enrollment periods. Oh, another special enrollment period could be a casualty. So a limited window to take advantage, but I tell people these are proactive tax planning strategies. Take advantage of it, bring up the topic with your financial planner, and see if it's applicable in your situation. Find this very popular. I had a sibling that was getting some of the life insurance benefits. Yes, did maximize the Roth in many aspects. We had a job and had children of her own. I said, are you maximizing a dependent care plan? And what do you have for your savings account for your healthcare costs potential? And we maximize those plans too. That's part of financial planning. Thank you.
And hey, Lisa and Mark, we did have a question that probably was from the slide before this, but if the question is, how does the higher Roth limit compare to around the $8,000 limit? How can we put more than that, $24,000 limit? Is this special? What do I need to tell my financial planner CPA?
Thank you. It's all based on the age. The rule of thumb, if you're under 50, does not apply. If you're over 50, it does apply. So then you can open a larger Roth. And then if you're in the young 60s, you get the bonus. So it all depends on your age. So a very proactive thing is, hey, I can afford putting in the money that I'm putting in now. If I want to put more in, you tell your planner, say how much you can do. And if you have that income and the ability to do it, more tax-free growth, hats off to you. So yes, a simple phone call. Often they're not going to bring up the topic because they didn't look at how old is this person? Say, hey, I'm over 50. Do I have any special things that I can do? And it's interesting, when people do automatic deductions at their workplace, they don't change it on the year they become 50. And notice I was careful on the word, almost to the point of almost getting tongue-tied. It's under 50 is the lower limit. Is if you turn 50 plus in a year, for the whole year, you have the higher limit. Excellent question. Thank the person who grasped it.
All right. Thank you, Mark. And yeah, that's all we have now. So back to you.
Thank you so much. So let's go to our next slide. And Mark, you had mentioned this HEART Act. Can you provide us an overview?
Thank you. The HEART Act, the HEROES Act of 2008, allows recipients of the death gratuity and or the SGLI. I did not say TSGLI, I did not say family life insurance, I said SGLI, to contribute all or part of the payments to a Roth IRA or a Coverdale without the usual restrictions. In essence, it's in addition to what they're allowed to put into a Roth IRA. It's in addition to it. There's no special form, there's no special thing other than it would be nice, just in case you're audited, to know the day you receive the death gratuity and the day you receive the SGLI. Bottom line, you can put it in. The tax forms are only when you pull it out. So that's the HEROES Act. Most people work out when we say there's no rush to do it, but the more you wait, the more tax-free growth you're forfeiting. So people usually do it early on and appreciate it, knowing that it is liquid if they need the money. Now, there's an alternative. You can put in a Coverdale educational account, CESA. In my, since Roth came out in 2008, I've not worked with a single family that did the CESA. It's all going into a Roth IRA. But they have a full year to put it in. Again, the earlier the better for tax-free growth. It's not the day of death, it's the date the money was received. So if you receive the money on March 15th, you have until March 14th of the next year to put it in on the death gratuity. If you received on April 30th, the SGLI, you have until April 29th of the following year to put the money and classify it as Roth IRA. And in many cases, it's not putting it anywhere. Some people will use the exact same place where they have the money now and just make it Roth. So they're not changing saving strategy. Remember, I'm not rushing an investment strategy. They're not saving changing anything. They're just classifying as, oh, I don't want to pay taxes on the growth of the money going forward. It's that simple. So you have that's out there, and it works very nicely. Now, if you're getting the SGLI in 36 months, which I don't see too often, but sometimes soldiers, service members, people in all the branches, they might pick, I want the payments to be in 36 months to the recipient of the money. Fine. Then you, in essence, get 36 windows for that 1 year period to put the money in a Roth IRA. In addition, if they got the death gratuity, I guess they got a 37th window for a 1 year deadline. Just know when you got the money, you have 1 year to put it in. Most people I work with do it right away because they don't want to pay taxes on the growth. Excellent. Lisa.
So, next slide. So, Mark, you talked a little bit about the HEART Act, and you also talked about the Roth IRA contributions. So why are they both so popular?
Tax-free growth. Not long ago, we helped set up a conservatorship, working with the appropriate attorneys, and I had a 0-year-old child who got $250,000. And it's been a while, and it's just growing and growing. And assuming 6% growth, it's in low risk funds. So let's say it was 6% growth. Let's say they continue this growth, because you're not going to need the money when you turn 18. The child's not going to need the money. They got all the VA educational benefits and all the nonprofit groups. Oh, don't forget, we're going to talk about that in today's call. But the good thing is it just grows. So that $250,000 for the child, half went to another person, half went to the child. Conservatorship was set up. The judge is supervising it. And it's just growing and growing and growing. So let's say now the child has it grows for 30 years. The anticipated value of that account that can be withdrawn at any time, tax-free, is $1.4 million for that child. And if the child doesn't need it, and why would they? They got so many benefits still going for them. Grad school, BAH, they can just keep it growing tax-free. Actually, they can keep it growing tax-free the rest of their life, plus 10 years after they die. So it's powerful. When you look at this graphic, it gives you the perspective of the beauty of the tax-free growth of the Roth IRA. Even if you're not a recipient of the SGLI or death gratuity, consider maxing your Roth at work if you can, your spouse, if you have a spouse, Roth at work if you can, and maximizing your personal Roth IRA if you can. That's my humble suggestion to you. And if you are getting any of the, or did get any of the SGLI or death gratuity, if you're within 1 year, push it in. And if not, live off of some of that money and stuff in as much as Roth you can going forward. I didn't talk about an investment strategy. I just said a saving strategy. If you want to talk investments, there's no rush to make that decision. Just save it for tax-free growth. Lisa.
Wow. So that's really takes a lot of pressure when you don't have to worry so much about investment, but you're worried about doing the savings. So thank you for sharing that with our audience. I think that is key. And I sure wish I was younger and would have made some different choices within my own life. So I've learned from this. So next slide, please. So HARDAC, how does one set up an account and the eligibility?
I get that question every day. I tell the survivor, I'm not going to tell you where to go. Choose a financial institution. You can have the institution call me if they think you're from Mars when you say, I want to put $500,000 in a Roth IRA or $600,000 in a Roth IRA on top of my regular Roth contribution. Because if they don't understand the HEROES Act of 2008, my role is to educate the financial institution and supply them with a code that says it's allowed. If they've not done this before, they might say, ask a question. We want to minimize that, so I will guide whoever you ask me to, I tell the survivor, and educate them, whoever you decide to use. You got to open a Roth IRA account. Minimum to open a Roth IRA account, it depends on the financial institution. The one that I worked with this yesterday afternoon said, put in $10 of seed money, and then we'll be ready to receive other monies later on. It's up to the financial institution. So choose an institution, open a Roth at the institution. And many people, when they start a Roth, they're very conservative. They just do it at a couple of banks, 3 banks, FDIC limits they're concerned with. So they do 2 or 3 banks. There's no rush. We're not making an investment decision. They open an account. They put the funds in the account, let it sit there. When they want to talk investment, there's no rush. They talk investment, might want to get a little asset allocation diversified. But many of the survivors had enough shock when the sudden death occurred. They're not ready to make an investment decision for 2 or 3 years. And I don't push it. It's already in a Roth. It's just sitting there. Maybe it's earning 4% growth. Fine. Tax-free growth. That's worth 6 in my book. And when the time's right, we can talk investment strategy based on their asset allocation desire. And they have a year to put it in. Again, I reemphasize, not the day of death, it's when you got the money. So what do you tell a financial representative? These are the FAQs that I often say. I want to put the money in a Roth. If you don't understand it, don't worry. Call they can call a financial counselor who's comfortable with this. Let them know it's a military death benefit account. They might, for their due diligence, but I'm not seeing this too often, ask, what day did you get the death gratuity? What day did you get the SGLI? They're not required to do that, but if they feel they need to do that for due diligence, let them know. If there's multiple installments, let them know all 36 states that you're getting the money or plan to get the money so they can track it and help you when you get the money, get it in. And some people say, I don't know the rule. Brian, if you or someone can put in the chat box, the section 109 on the HARDAC, the code, this link is very valuable. Just show the bank or the financial institution you use. Lisa.
So just kind of thinking outside the box, Mark, as I was sitting here listening to your briefing, would you advise service members then to maybe consider when they're making their selection for the SGLI to put it in the 36 months payment so that it gives their family members more time to think about what to do?
I get that question constantly, and I say no. Well, first of all, the interest rate on that account's about 0.5%. So no, money that's sitting there is only getting about 0.5%. So I'd rather not. Also, how much time does someone need to say, I want to pay taxes on the growth, yes or no? So people ask me, should I voluntarily elect and do the 36 installment when you're getting low interest rate? But the other thing is, we're not asking you to make an investment decision, just a savings one. So lump sum makes a whole lot of sense. And I realize you're not ready for investment. Fine. Are you ready to make a tax decision so you don't have to pay taxes on the growth? Yeah, fine. Take it in lump sum, put in a Roth. Talk about investment later on. Excellent question. Superb question.
Thank you so much, Mark. So let's go to the next slide. So how do we report withdrawals from a Roth IRA?
Form 8606. Now, when you run your return on Military OneSource Mill Tax, it'll walk you right through this. And you simply say, hey, over the years I put 600,000, or maybe with additional deposits, I put 650,000 in a Roth IRA. Let's say they maxed out. Put 650 in a Roth IRA, or put more if they had more earnings they put in a Roth IRA. So you put that in. And then you say how much you previously pulled out of the Roth, which could be zero. And now you say I pulled out of the Roth, let's say 200,000 to buy a home. They don't even ask what you used it for necessarily. So what you're saying is I am pulling out less than my cost basis. So it's not a taxable event. But you got to tell the IRS if you pull money out of a Roth IRA, because when they get the 1099 from the financial institution, they don't know what it's for. But if you say that it was from a Roth distribution, you're not going to be taxed on it. So you are going to get a 1099 to the address on file from the financial institution. Don't worry about it, because they don't know exactly what your cost bases are with all your Roths. So they'll say, here's the money. We don't know where it came from. We just know it was taken out. They send it to the IRS. IRS is waiting for your explanation of what it was. You're explaining that it was a return of the cost basis on Form 8606. So you got to fill that out April 15th or by April 15th of the year after you made a withdrawal from the Roth IRA. I've had survivors forget to do that. Then they get a tax letter from the IRS. You owe X amount of taxes because you pulled money out of a pension, because they didn't know it was from a Roth IRA. Or you pulled it out and they don't know if it was cost basis or not cost basis. You need to have that form. So when you get that letter, if you get your letter, I hope you don't, simply we amend the return, do an 8606, and we're fine. Excellent question. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Mark. So next slide. So can you gift money for the purposes of funding a Roth IRA or account without any tax reporting, provided you stay within certain annual limits?
Yeah, you can. So if I wanted to give a gift to my son, I could say, here's $19,000. And I don't have to report it. It doesn't affect my lifetime gifting limits or my estate limits, which are super high now, but they could change. I don't have to worry about that. I can give up to $19,000 to everyone I want. Don't even have to fill out a gift tax form. So to me, that's an excellent gig, $19,000. But he can only put into his Roth IRA up to his limit that we discussed of $7,500. But now he has play money, and he can use some of that money to fund his Roth at work. So max out part of legacy planning, helping my children max out their Roths if they're not able to do it on their own accord just yet in their career path, is a phenomenal way for legacy planning. So if I have any extra money that I can help my children out, I can do it while I'm alive and just give it to them and let it grow in their Roth accounts, which is a great strategy. If I maxed out my own Roth accounts to give them up to the gifting limits, don't even report it on the gift tax return. And even if I go over and I have to report it, it's not the end of the world in many situations. I'll keep it at 19 though, and let them fund their Roths. And then now they're going to have, this is all part of legacy planning. So it's a very powerful option for those that have cash in the bank that want to do legacy planning for their children, or anybody that they want to do legacy planning for, a niece, a nephew, whatever. Or someone that's very dear to them. So you have those game plans. Now, how do you, if you go over 19,000, you have to fill out a gift tax form. Not necessarily do you have to pay taxes on it, but you do have to do an informational form, IRS Form 709. And it can impact your lifetime limit and your state taxes later on when you die. But with the limits being unbelievably high right now, no one's overly concerned with it. But I remember when those limits were quite low. So who knows where the future holds. I play it safe, and I just cap my gifts at 19 when I can.
Thank you so much, Mark. Next slide, please. And so, Mark, you told us a lot about, you talked about a lot of different things. And a lot of this applies to surviving family members, but it also can apply to to surviving parents that are not necessarily receiving those benefits, and just regular old people like me and you. So what are some key takeaways that you want to leave our audience?
Thanks for asking. First of all, the whole econ system includes immediate and ongoing benefits. Track them. I encourage people every year to run their OSBR reports. How wonderful that Jen was able to share how easy it is with your MyORF. Everyone that is a survivor, if there's one takeaway from this dialogue, please, one, see that you have a MyORF, and two, work with the FAST team so you can run your OSBR report with what-if scenarios if you so desire, or just do the static version. And do it at least once a year. It's a great thing that you have available to you, a great tool that has been funded for you to have a resource too. Number two, if you've not done the Roth IRA on your personal income, look at that at your work site, also on a personal account. If you are within 1 year of receiving the money and didn't put the money in a Roth IRA, from a tax perspective, you might want to do it. If you want to wait to the last day that you are eligible for the tax break, fine. But remember, until you do it, you're paying taxes on the growth. Hopefully there's growth. And remember, if you pull money out of a Roth IRA, it's not going to be taxable if the IRS knows that you're pulling money of your cost basis out. How do they know that? Form 8606. Those are some key takeaways. Lisa.
Thank you so much, Mark. So let's go to the next slide. And so what are some tax holding I can't even talk right now. So what are some tax withholding considerations?
Bottom line, if you owe taxes April 15, that probably means you're under withholding. So you might want to increase how much taxes come out of the money you're getting, be it at work, be it with your SPP. So W-4 is from an employer, W-4P from DFAS if it's an SPP, W-4V with Social Security. You want to do all three or just one of them? Just increase your withholding because we don't need to have to write a check on April 15th. So that's an important thing. You have the MyPay resources available if you want to do it with DFAS. Those are some things that are out there. That's an important concept. So we summarized a lot of things. Now, for some people that are getting windfall, that are working outside and they get some windfall money because of some entities that they're working for, 1099 income, or they're getting some outside investment income that's non-Roth that they got to pay taxes on, you might want to make sure you increase your withholding. Some survivors I work with, helping them, I encourage them to at least do some quarterly estimated tax payments. It's IRS Form 1040 if they're running short, because on April 15th, if you owe too much, you actually got to pay some penalties for owing too much. We want to minimize that. So if we do quarterly tax return extra money or increase the withholding from work, DFAS, or Social Security, if you're getting Social Security, we have ways that you can have adequate withholding done in the tax year, so April 15th, you don't get that surprise, and a surprise possibly with the penalty. Thanks for the question, Lisa.
Thank you. And then just as a reminder to our surviving spouses and certain surviving children, that we have My Tax during tax season that's available on Military OneSource for you. So we highly encourage you to access that. If you have any difficulties in accessing the My Tax program, we have the survivor inquiry form. Please, fill it out and send it, and our office will get it, and we will assist to make sure that you get those tax experts. So thank you. Next slide. So how do we import our tax information when we're doing applications such as a FAFSA? That sounds real exciting.
Yeah. If you did your taxes for 2025, when you now do the FAFSA, which I'm told is going to be available on or before October 1 of this year, you'll hit a button, and in theory, if all the validation for security has been done, the Future Act Direct Data Exchange, FADDX, will upload the tax information. It's going to make it real easy. And I encourage people to do the new FAFSA for 2027-28 as early as possible. So I have juniors doing it. Why? Because for the summer, not the following summer, but the following summer that they be graduating after being a senior. They graduate in May. They take a couple summer classes in June and July. We have it on file for the Pell Grant. So juniors, October, and I know some of the families in this call, junior year's coming up. Put that on your calendar, October 1, do your FAFSA. And hopefully, if there's income for the young child or from the parent, tax returns were done for 2025 already. Then for the 2027-28, we can upload it. Excellent question.
All right. So next slide, please. That's really good information. So how do you do federal withholding for SBP and Social Security taxes?
I wanted to expand on one of our prior slides and really get into the minutia details. You have this as a downloadable opportunity, but the most important thing is we talked about it. Be sure you update things with mypaydfast.mil. That's a key link, mypaydfast.mil. There are also, I tell people, some great budgeting tools at FinRed's website, part of the USA Learning Library. Money budgeting for uncertain times. Great resources are available to you as well. Also, just remember, if you want to do super withholding at your wage, you don't have to do all three. If you want to do a little of the proper withholding with all three, that's appropriate. But remember, if you're getting Social Security, that's possibly taxable. So you got to be sure that that income, somehow, the tax on that income is being reflected. Same thing with SBP, if you're getting SBP, and same thing that you're getting from all your wages if you're working. And from many investment opportunities that you have that are causing growth that is not in a Roth IRA. So do your tax withholding. Push comes to shove, we can do the quarterly return as an estimated tax. Excellent question.
Thank you so much, Mark. So let's go to the next slide. So how does Social Security and the Survivor Benefit Plan income impact your tax planning?
A lot of people just know they get Social Security every month. They didn't realize that they're like the SBP and that it's gone up. Last year it was 2.8%. Before that it was 2.5%. Before that, there's always been increases. So sometimes people just see the money coming in. They don't realize it's growing over the years. So I ask people, with all the growth, are you having enough tax withholding coming out? So I gave you some key links that are out there. And still to this day, we're finding some survivors that the SBP stopped 1/1/2023. Forms were missing. Now they get their forms in. We're still within the 6-year window, because if you miss the 6-year window, the Barring Act bars some payments. And now they're getting large checks since 1/1/2023. If you're a surviving spouse and you're not getting the survivor benefit plan, but you are eligible for it, and for some reason, call DFAS and see what's up. And are you entitled to it? Because if a retro check has to come, great, let's address that. But remember, in some cases, if it stopped on 1/1/2023 due to changes in the law, which were great for the surviving spouses, but if for some reason you didn't apply for it, the clock's ticking of when you can. So something to look at. So check if you're getting a DFAS payment. Call DFAS, double check if you're entitled to it as a surviving spouse, and then we can take it from there. Good. This has just been a great thing, Lisa, for all the people that gave these questions that we prepared for. A big thank you to the audience, because it's an honor to answer questions that have come literally from the field.
Absolutely. They're very great questions. So thank you to all of those who submitted your questions. So let's go to the next slide. So what are some Social Security, survivor benefits, and income impact tax planning considerations?
First of all, unremarried surviving spouses may qualify for Social Security survivor benefits if they are over retirement age themselves, or caring for a deceased child under age 16 or is disabled. So we have those benefits. Now, between 16 and 60, wow, that got me scared. Between age 16 and 60, that's a blackout period for the spouse. I just want to brace people for that, and they'll see that on their OSBR report. The amount of Social Security survivor benefits, depending on the age of the surviving spouse, their earnings, their marital status. But the bottom line is, if the spouse is earning more and they're under normal retirement age, which is 67 in most cases, if they're earning over $64,480, and that's the 2016 amount, they will have the benefit reduced 50 cents to the dollar in general. So I caution people to be prepared for it. But if there are many other children, what they're losing, usually to some degree, gets shared with the other of the children. So if it's several children there, it is not the end of the world. Children, fill out your verification that you're still in school, because you're entitled to Social Security until you graduate high school, even at the age of 19 and 2 months. And also, if you are disabled, have your guardian, conservator, parent fill out the form so it could possibly be continued thereafter. Now, is Social Security taxable? Possibly. Generally, Social Security benefits are not taxable if the individual's total income is under $25,000. If you're single, head of household, or qualifying widower, it's a bit higher. For most people, it's the $25,000 thing. But the bottom line is, for many people, part of that Social Security is going to be taxable. Some people have been forgetting to put it on their return. The IRS sends them a friendly reminder, and then they got to write a check after the fact. So I'd like to be proactive and bring that up. Who's taxed? It's the person who has the legal right to receive the benefits. Thus, a child receiving Social Security benefits may have to pay taxes on those benefits, especially if they're also receiving survivor benefit plan and other income. So we have some situations when there is no spouse, SBP, and a full Social Security benefits going to the child. It may be that that child has a combined income over the $25,000 threshold. And in some cases, we have other tax situations, ultimate minimum tax. Child, in many cases, pay taxes. And it's something that a lot of 4-year-olds didn't know. Oh, did I have to pay those taxes? Yes. So work with Military OneSource, or wherever you use MilTax, or your tax professional, to see in your situation, especially if the child's getting SBP and Social Security, is a tax return needed? And the answer probably is yes. Thank you, Lisa.
Wow, yeah. How in the world would a 4-year-old know they've got to pay taxes? Next slide. So what are some tax tips that you have in regards to the survivor benefit plan income?
Remember, you're going to be getting cash, taxable. If the money is going to a child, and possibly if they stay in school and they're full time in school because there was no eligible spouse, this is happening to age 22. I encourage the children to make sure to tell DFAS they're not a dropout. Just like through age 23, if they're not using the FRI benefit or an educational benefit, make sure the VA every year knows that you're still in school full time. Likewise, make sure DFAS knows you're in school full time to age 22 for the survivor benefit plan. Now, granted, on the VA, the first topic I mentioned, if you're using the FRI or any educational benefit, it boxes out the DIC. Granted, but if you're using the DIC, it can actually go, if you're a full-time student and document as such, to 23, 22 on the survivor benefit plan. Let them know. And don't forget, as mentioned earlier, on your Social Security benefit, you can still get it in your name as a child all the way to high school graduation, even 19 and 2 months. So those things. Now, one key thing, just be sensitive to it, especially if you get an SBP as a child and you have a parent in an income bracket. Possibly it could trigger what's known as the kiddie tax bracket. Your financial counselor can do that, but remember, because SBP is considered under an income, when it exceeds some thresholds, the child's tax rate might be determined by the parent's marginal bracket. Now, MilTax catches this and is aware of it, so I encourage people to use that software. But children, if you're getting the SBP, if you're 4 or 21, you might be triggering maybe a kiddie tax, depending on the household situation, fill in the taxes, work with a professional. If you ignore it, the IRS is going to find that out maybe in 3 years when they do retro audits, and it gets awkward. Clarification is please do taxes. I also clarify a child's disability status is separately determined by Social Security, VA, DFAS, and DEERS. I bring that up because I had someone saying, oh, I'm disabled for DFAS. I'm still getting the SBP. I have no spouse. I'm going to get that forever. And I, in that same conversation, I said, did you mention to DEERS that you're disabled? It's separate forms. Oh, did I have to? Yeah, I bet your ID card expired. So DFAS knew, but not DEERS. And then I brought up the topic. Did you tell VA? VA knew. Did not know. And did you tell Social Security? They didn't know. So there's 4 separate entities to let them know if you are disabled as a child, and they all have different criteria for defining what is disabled. Lisa.
Oh, wow. So Mark, you could be disabled or considered disabled then for one of those organizations, but not for another based on their criteria, correct?
That is correct.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, thank you for that. So let's go on to our next slide. So how can you use the interactive online benefits report, or the OSBR, for cash flow and tax planning?
I am so glad that you brought up that topic. And this was one of the questions from our audience. Jen Harlow did a wonderful job earlier today to go over it from the FAST team, the Family Assistance Support Center. And if they have your DS login MyOrth username, you can run that report. Now, if it's Army, My Army Benefits, Marine, they have some resources that are out there. But if sometimes the calculators, if you want to use My Army Benefits, you can just use that. If you want to go to My Marine Benefits, you can see it. Some of the calculators, they're very similar, but it's out there. Space Force benefits come through the Air Force benefits, My Coast Guard benefits, and the benefit calculator. So you have some links there to do it. I encourage you to take advantage of that. Now, Jen's presentation, of course, will be available online at some point, today's presentation. If you want to see a slightly older version of it that's already loaded, I gave you the link. It's on the Military OneSource website right now, a webinar that talks about the robustness of the interactive online benefit report. Survivors got an initial one from the Casualty Center pretty quickly after the casualty, probably within 3 months. 3 weeks. So basically, the webinar talks about how to do the interactive report, the what ifs, that I'm encouraging people to run at least once a year. If you run it the same year as you got the initial report, in theory, it should be the same, unless you do some interactive changing of what ifs. Starting the next year, you'll see the cost of living increases that could come. And looks like this year, at the end of the year, there's going to be another cost of living increase. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. So next slide. So why does the OSBR matter?
Budgeting, planning, what's cash flow? When are you going to have the blackout period for a surviving spouse when you're not going to get that money from Social Security? So those are key things. Well, what happens at 65? What happens at other ages? 60 if you decide to take the Social Security right away. And I find it's also very useful for understanding other benefits out there. How long can a FRI benefit be there? Remember, although you can get remarried after 55 and not have your SBP taken away if you're a spouse, same thing with the VA-DIC, got to wait to 60 for that with Social Security, and you do lose TRICARE when you get remarried. A lot of interaction questions that you may have can be seen on the OSBR report. This is why, to me, it's so valuable. Thank you.
And so I just want to do another plug-in. So for the surviving children that are on the line, when you turn 18, you can do it the day of your birthday. But we really want you to start accessing your own online survivors benefit report so that you too can see what your benefits are. So once you turn 18, your guardian or your parent, they can't see that. So that's why it's very important, and we'll help you to get access to your report. And you can access it online. But to get that started, we need you to contact the Family Assistance Support Team at the number below, which is 877-827-2471. And then also, as I'm talking to our survivor children, don't forget, Mark did like the flip stop, that you need to make sure that you inform DFAS and the VA what your status is. So if you're going to school, you need to make sure that you let them know every year so that your benefits don't stop. So those are real key and very important matters for you. So next slide.
And if I could jump in real quick before, thank you, Lisa, for bringing that up about the adult children. And then also one thing that we've gotten a lot of questions on while we've been at in-person events for the OSBR is for children who turn 18 during their high school year, that the benefits can continue on the high school level for DIC, Social Security, and if applicable, SBP, while the child is still in high school, but over 18. So if you ever have any questions with that, we can update the report to reflect what the benefits are and tell you how to apply for those benefits, because once you're 18, you do have to notify the government agencies that you are over 18 but still in high school.
And that's the key. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the key, surviving children, is to make sure, that you are linked in, you keep everybody informed, and we get you the right OSBR. So this way you too, you'll be young, but you still need to manage your money that you're entitled, that your parent who died serving our country left for you. That's their gift or their legacy to you. So Mark, how does the Roth and the non-Roth TSP and the 401k and the IRA impact tax planning?
The more you have in a Roth, the tax-free growth, and you don't have to worry about it when the money is withdrawn. Just so long you report to the IRS that you're withdrawing what you put in. It's that simple. So I put a lot of verbiage here because this is going to become a reference tool for many of our survivors. People might want to dialogue with their financial planner, Roth conversion options as need be. And if they are taking the TSP, think twice before cashing it out, because that is a taxable event. Might not be the appropriate thing to do right away. You have time to make a decision what you want to do with that. And this just summarizes everything we talked about. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Mark. That's a real complicated thing to really focus on. And so I appreciate all the information that you provided. And then just as a reminder to our audience, this will be available on Military OneSource. So we'll have the recording and you'll even be able to watch it as a YouTube video. So next slide. So what are the potential Roth opportunities going forward?
A simple way of summarizing our Roth presentation. No taxes on growth. One can withdraw their cost basis at any time, but any withdrawals need to be reported to the IRS when one files a tax return. Otherwise, the IRS will not know its return of cost basis if that's the case. That's the bottom line.
All right, next slide. So where and how do you report Roth distributions?
Remember, you're going to get that 1099. I showed it to you. And then you basically look at the directions on IRS Form 8606, and you basically say, I'm pulling out my cost basis. I showed you the tax forms in a prior slide. Now I just want to let you know how to do it. Thank you.
Next slide, please. So what are some legacy planning considerations?
One may be gifting to help your loved ones, children, put money into a Roth if they can for their own tax-free growth. We talked about that. So that's a concept. Other is, when the time's right, talk about what your wishes for legacy is. And maybe do some self-evaluation. What is your goal for legacy planning, especially if you receive some of the funds? And if you have minor children, is there a trust set up for them if something happens to you? I have adult children. They know what my goals for legacy planning are for the generations, for the grandkids. And we have open dialogue. When the time was right, we had open dialogues. And it also, because of that, it's going to minimize future conflict in the future that potentially could come up. It's a sensitive subject. It requires deliberate action. And also, the best thing is, with a financial planner, you also can have some self-evaluation of what your goals are. Because a good financial planner will ask rhetorical questions, open-ended questions, to help you see what you want. That's the purpose of working with a financial professional. And communicating the goals that you can uncover, short-term, long-term goals, as we talked in this presentation, and integrating income tax planning and estate planning, you ensure that the legacy is both protected and purposeful.
So, Mark, if I walked into my financial planner and I said, hey, I want to talk about legacy planning, they should know exactly what that means, correct?
I think the following question would be, if they don't, hopefully they ask an open-ended question. What do you mean by legacy planning? Open-ended question dialogues with a financial planner are so important. So that's very key. So yes, that is correct.
Thank you. Next slide, please.
And we actually do have two questions, if I can interject. So first one, my son received the 22-5490. He is 16. The form states once I make the selection, he will not receive DIC when he turns 18. What if we postpone making the selection until he needs it, grad school? Would he be able to continue receiving DIC? And is this an option, or must we submit this paperwork now?
Kelly and your team, I'll defer to you on that question, but the bottom line is you don't lose your DIC if you keep saying you're a full-time student unless you're actually receiving a VA educational benefit. Help me out here.
I think you're right, Mark. I would need to check the specific, but if you can defer. But again, I would need, if they want an official, official reading on that, email us at Office of Survivors Assist at va.gov, and I'll run that past Ed Services so that they can look at their specific case and reach out.
And we'll put that link in the chat as well, so that you've got it for the email for the Office of Survivors Assistant.
I have many survivors that keep the DIC going to 23 and then start using the FRI, especially if there was no spouse, because they're getting so many other resources on educational resources, which we'll touch on today and really wrap up a good chunk of it in October. But the bottom line is that is a strategy, especially as you save the FRI. So I'd fill it in, but Kelly will verify for you. This is wonderful.
And then we have a second question. For child survivors, the way I understand the kiddie tax is that there's an exception in the bill, Gold Star Tax Family Relief Act, S1370, where SBP is considered earned income. Is this correct?
Yes and no. There are two types of kiddie taxes. The first kiddie tax is the basic kiddie tax, and one was the surcharge kiddie tax. So we can look at the situation. In fact, Military OneSource software captures it. So there was, for about 2 years until there was it was fixed, that there was that surcharge kiddie tax thing, and that I bet is what's causing a little of the confusion there. So that's some of the issues that we have related to it. But if you're being hit with a surcharge kiddie tax, let the folks at the Survivor Symposium know. They'll forward to me, and I'll look at your particular case. We'll probably work with Military OneSource together and figure out if you're getting hit with the surcharge tax.
All right, and that's the questions we have for now. So back to you.
All right. So, Mark, any other strategic tax-saving consideration?
Well, real estate, brokerage accounts. I give an example. When I die, I'm not planning on it. Basically, any appreciated assets that I may have will go to my heirs with a step up in cost basis. My home, for example, it appreciated over the years. And if I die, when I die, it'll go to my wife. But basically, when she dies, the appreciation for half of the home up to my death, and then the appreciation of her situation. And it all depends how we title things. But bottom line is, when the kids get the home, they're going to get a step up in basis. So when they eventually sell the home or homestead, whatever, their taxes are only going to be on the escalated value of the home at the time of the debts and the profit going forward. So this whole step up in cost basis on real estate and brokerage accounts to the fair market value at the value of a member's death is an interesting thing to consider. So sometimes, rather than give away an increased value asset to a child now, I'll say, wait till daddy dies and you'll get the increased cost basis tax-free when I die. So giving money away, even though I talked a lot about that, is be careful on appreciated assets, because if you cash out an appreciated asset, it's taxable. Sometimes it might make sense on some assets to wait until death to give it to an heir because of the step up in cost basis. So there's a lot of considerations there. Again, your financial counselor can go to that. Some differences with community property states, and I listed the ones that are out there for you. This step up basis is a very interesting thing. Your financial counselor can help you guide what are the questions to ask your tax professional on, just to say, hey, here's some quiz questions that you might want to ask your tax professional on to go there. There's some unique things related to home sales. I just want to make that as a reference slide for you. And I encourage you, if you're using a brokerage firm, do ask them to make sure that if you inherited assets from the deceased, what was the value of the asset on the date that you took over the asset, because that is the cost basis increase, that when you give away that asset or when you die, that is a consideration to be looked at on many circumstances. So the bottom line is, if you inherited investment assets, have your broker calculate what was the value when you became the heir of that invested asset. Many people forget to do that, and then later on in life when they sell it, we don't know what the cost basis was of the asset at the time of the death or when they got the asset. That's strategic tax-saving considerations.
Very good. So next slide, please. So then, Mark, what are what they call tax abatements and similar credits?
Tax abatements. If you own a home, check in your county if you can get a tax abatement on your home property. I live in Missouri. We don't have that. But in many states, Virginia, Illinois, you have significant tax abatements that are available, and that is a property tax abatement. Check with your tax assessor as a military survivor, and often they say it's not only for service-connected line of duty deaths. If it's service-connected, they qualify. The survivor spouse qualifies for a tax abatement. So that's an important thing to look at. Another way the tax abatement is used, if it's a theater death, there's a tax abatement that is available. There's a tax abatement that is available for going retro and getting back taxes were paid in prior years if it was a second deployment. Other tax credits, we have exemptions, reductions, forgiveness, credits, and you want to look in your state if there are different credits. Sometimes they're age-based that are out there. First home buyer credits that are out there. So take advantage. Your financial counselor can help you with that. Every county is different. I used to say every state's different, but now even within a state, the interpretation and the abatements slightly may differ. So it's something to be sensitive to.
Very good. Thank you so much. And then, Mark, would it be helpful to even, how each state has their own little VA office, is not necessarily related to the Department of VA, but is that another place that a survivor could go to learn about these tax abatements in their state?
I heavily encourage them to do that. In fact, if you Kelly talked about how the new book for the VA has been published online for 2026. Most of the states have now put online their booklet as well. I encourage people to go to your state website to download it.
Thank you so much, Mark. And next slide. So what are some popular resources in tax planning?
Again, this will be a downloadable slide that you can click at some point when you get the downloadable slides, and you'll cut and paste and put it in. Everything I talked about here, I want you to have the secret sauce. Where did I get the information from writing this presentation in conjunction with consulting with my good friend Christine Murphy? Those are those resources that are out there. They're your tools as well. All my secrets are now shared. So they're out there. But I'm going to give you caution. Resources like .gov.mil, they're tools that are vetted to use. If you use anything other than .gov.mil, just be careful and cautious. If you're looking for spending plan worksheets, I like some things where on uslearning.gov. That's what I personally use. when I meet with people. And I also love the thrift savings plan resources that we mentioned earlier, and some of these that are out there. They just make some sense, that are tools for you to use. So you got the secrets.
And then to our survivor population, when you look at Military OneSource, a lot of these guides, a lot of these resources that we have on Military OneSource, it's based on feedback that we received. And so we want to make sure that we have the information out there that you need. If there's information that you see as you're reading this and you're going, you know what? I really wish that Military OneSource would also have this. And I remember Mark talking about this, or I remember hearing this on the peripheral, but I want more information. Please submit your input through the survivor inquiry form. We're very interested. We want to make sure that we have resources and tools that are available for you to make your journey, your grief journey, go a lot easier. So we really want your feedback. So next slide. So what are some resources available from Military OneSource? Well, there you go. And, we have a podcast series, so you can listen to some of the interviews that may be of interest to you. We also have that financial management for surviving spouses and surviving children. And I'm so sorry, Mark, I just couldn't help myself because as the program manager for casualty, mortuary affairs, and military funeral honors, my team and our contractor modes team, we're the ones that make sure that information is out there. And then, of course, we want to link to all of our many colleagues within the military community and family policy deputate. And so I'll give it back to you, Mark.
I appreciate that. And Bruce Moody is on this phone call, so I'm going to give you a personal shout out, because I get a lot of positive feedback of what you did with Christine and I remember the day. It's posted December 2nd, 2024. We did a 38-minute presentation on the HEROES Act of 2008 and saving. So had to give you a shout out there. Appreciate doing that.
My pleasure. And it's still on the website, and it will remain.
Good. That's great. That's great to know.
It's also I'm not going to take any more time.
No.
It's also on our YouTube page.
That's great. Bruce, thanks for sharing that. Again, the date of that was December 2nd, 2024. And I look at your podcast of many other topics. They're useful for so many people on the Military OneSource. So thank you for moderating that and encouraging us to do that program with you. So that's a simple way to connect. I encourage people to take advantage of it and to have Bruce on this phone call or this call as a thank you. It's great. Next.
And also, too, so I want to do some other plugs for my other colleagues from the other directorates within the MC and FP, or Military Community Family Policy. I mean, there's MWR. There is, we talked about the tax. There's the electronic libraries. There's things that have to do, it's just like living life, regular life. Everything about our grief journeys. It's not just grief and bereavement, but it's also living life and raising children if you have children, and so forth. And so also too, we're including in the chat our link to our Mill Life learning courses. So there's a variety of courses on there. You can click one for the survivor. You can also click the one that I was telling you about. It's called Making Your Last Wishes Known. And so that will tie into what we've been presenting here today. So we are about 2:48. We want to make sure that we close. We don't leave you hanging. We want to make sure that we answer any questions that you may have out there.
And I'd say just go to the next slide, and the one after that is questions, and that'll be perfect. So the next slide is just references.
Yep.
So did you have anything to add on that one, Mark?
No, a lot of references that are out there. And I'm going to just do a quick update on scholarships. We don't even need to see slides for it. My presentation for the scholarship thing is a short 3-minute one, but I wanted to make sure it was on the agenda because we have an important news. These are key references. We have questions. Let's first take those, and then I'm going to give you a quick overview of important things on the FAFSA.
And I don't think we didn't have any new questions. We had one from earlier, and I'll sort of let you answer it more, Mark. But somebody asked, do you charge a fee for your planning services? And that's where I said, hey, you are an Army SOS employee, correct? So I'll let you speak to it better.
Anyone who calls any of the SOS financial counselors or the financial readiness counselors in the system, military family counselors, using Military OneSource, it's a resource for the survivors. I'm simply a humble resource, and I'm glad to be that. But thank you for the question. So let me give an overview of financial question for survivors. The roadmap, it's a simple, let's just stick with that one slide, and then we can do all our regular wrap-up. I just wanted to spend time because there was an urgent reason that I brought this up for 2026-27. Children, please, spouses, please, do your FAFSA. Now I'll let you in another secret on the FAFSA. If you didn't do a FAFSA for 2025-26, and this is an important thing, very simple presentation here. If you did not do a FAFSA for 25-26 and you are a child, please do it now, retro to last August. I'll tell you why. Recent law about 3 years ago, was that if you are a child of an active duty service member, first responder as well, you get the Max Pell Grant, $7,395. I'm running into many families that did not file a FAFSA for 2025-26. The deadline is the 30th of June. This is so important. Do your FAFSA. There's a question on it. Did you lose your loved one active duty? Yes or no? Newsflash, for most situations on this call, the survivor child can answer yes. You get the Max Pell Grant. Now the school will get a flag. They will want to verify. So bring a copy of the DD 1300 to the school financial aid office. I didn't say VA office, to the financial aid office, and say, you know what? I didn't do my FAFSA, or my FAFSA was not the $7,395. It should have been. Something's amuck here. And give them that $1,300 before the end of the year. Make sure you do the FAFSA for 25, 26 before the end of the year. We wanted on this phone call to bring that up because I'm looking at the calendar. We don't have a lot of time to do. 20 days are left. So I encourage you, not even to, if you were in school since 2025 August, anything through now, through the summer term inclusive. Make sure the FAFSA is on time and you're collecting it. And then there's a humble reminder for 2026-27. You can do the FAFSA. You're saying, I'm not going to get benefits because my mom's income or my dad's income or my stepdad's income. I mean, beyond it. Guess what? Because of that new question, you will get the Max Pell Grant. And if not, it could be that they don't have a copy of the 1300 on file at the school financial aid office. I wanted to take a moment to do that. We're going to expand on scholarships for the 26-27 school year in the next call, but I want to bring those two concepts up, very important concepts. Gosh, first part of the presentation, we spend good time on in the detail. This one's short but simple, but super important. Thank you for that opportunity.
And also, too, surviving family members, if you are not sure, you've misplaced that DD Form 1300, you're not sure even what that is, it's the report of casualty, contact your long-term case manager. So we have all that information listed on our website as well. So please reach out. We're here to help. If you're not sure, survivor inquiry form, we want to make sure that you have the information that you need so that you can be successful.
All right. Thank you, Mark and Lisa. And let's said that we've got about 7 minutes left. I don't see any questions in the Q&A, so we'll give it a little time. But I will say again, once this is completed, we've got to review the recording. It will be posted to the Survivor Symposium page on Military OneSource, the full recording and transcript. And you can go back and look at the last ones. As Mark mentioned earlier, you can see his earlier discussions. And you will be receiving a feedback email that we appreciate any of the feedback on what we could do better, or the big thing, what topics are you interested in? What could we add to this or address? And
one shout out to Brian, that I want to tell our audience that they may not be aware that we have some of our e-learning courses. You can go to the e-learning website and you have to create an account and do all of that. But we have some of our e-learning courses that are on YouTube, so you don't have to go through all of that. So I encourage you, check it out. If you're, we've got Military OneSources on Facebook. They also Twitter. It's everywhere, but there's lots of information out there. And so we encourage you.
And Brian, one interesting thing, I'm looking at the people on this phone call, and boy, most everyone stayed on for the whole time. Thank you. We have someone on the call from Children of Fallen Patriot Foundation, which just merged with Tunnel for Towers. One interesting thing for our survivors that I think would be very useful to know is that they are still taking applications for undergraduate school. And in fact, they're giving out grants for people that are 16 years old that they can start funding some of the resources for them. They're still open for applications. Children of Fallen Patriot Foundation merged with Tunnel for Towers. You can see their link on their website. But they're helping with some unmet living expenses at schools, sometimes the tuition at schools, and for people saving the fry, they kind of make up some of the money there. So that's a very nice resource. I'm very grateful that a Gold Star themselves, who happens to work for the organization, I just noticed was on the call. Children of Fallen Patriots still taking applications. So I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mark. And I don't see any other questions. Again, you think of something later, we always have the survivor inquiry form, Military OneSource. If you put in survivor inquiry form or you search for the Survivor Symposium, the link is on the page. Lisa and I are the ones that get those questions. So you can reach out to us. And if there's something you want from Mark, we'll pass it on to him. And here, Erica posted the link for, Tunnels to Tower Scholarship. Thank you. And last call for any questions. Otherwise, thank you for your attendance. Our next symposium will be on October 30th. Will be the same format. You'll get the information on Military OneSource, or if you've signed up for the newsletter, you'll get it in our newsletters. There will be a survey coming out after this. It will be emailed to you. And again, we appreciate any feedback. That's how we build these. And let's see, something just popped into QA. Let's look quick. Oh, it's the link for Tunnels of Towers. So with that, I guess, Lisa, you got anything last, or that will conclude the symposium?
Nope. And just have a very safe and a lovely weekend.
Hi, and thank you all. So that does conclude the symposium. You may exit the meeting now, and thank you for attending.
Thank you.